I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 70 of Tales from Godric's Hollow, the number one Professor Snape podcast on the internet. Possibly. Actually, I haven't done much research into that, but for the time being, we'll just say we're number one. We're recording this on Monday, October 30th, 2017. I am one of your hosts. I am the Muggle of the show. I am Josh Brown. I am joined by Severus Snape's biggest fan, Professor Matt Sonnenberg. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Josh.
How are you?
I'm good.
We're starting a new book this week.
We are. It's usually one of my favorite times. For whatever reason, starting new books is always exciting.
Usually, but not this time, right? That's what you meant to say?
You tend to have a different opinion of things. But I enjoy starting new books.
We are diving into book 6 of the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Forgive me in advance for getting that name wrong for the next 2 to 3 weeks as I adjust to forgetting the old book's name. We're jumping into book 6 finally, Matt. We got through the last book, we got through the film, we had fun. We laughed, we cried some more. Didn't really laugh anymore after that, but it's been, I've been, I think just after seeing the film, I just didn't really have the ambition to really push forward in the normal speed that I would usually want to. And I don't know what that is. For one, I mean, yeah, the last book ended on quite the bummer. Understatement of the year. I don't look forward to the rest of the story because it just doesn't feel like it's going to be getting much better. But also, like, we're at book 6 now, Matt. We are getting dangerously close to finishing this adventure, and I don't know how I quite feel about that yet. I haven't really come to terms with the fact that, like, we are almost to the home stretch here.
It's true.
You know?
We're getting real close. A lot closer than we were, well, a year or two ago.
Oh, God. When we started book 4, I thought the end was, like, never going to happen. And now it's like, oh, man, I don't even know what's going on in book 6, but book 7 is right around the corner, and that's it. That's it.
It's true.
But, you know, in the words of the great Albus Dumbledore, Matt, it is time that we pursue that Flighty Tempest adventure.
All right, we can do that.
We're going to try. You know, I'm going to be real with you guys here. Not the most exciting 3 chapters I've ever read in my entire life.
But I think that's to be expected, especially just the way you
say that, Matt. You say that. But let me remind you how the last book started out.
Yeah.
It came in like a wrecking ball, Matt, and it caught me off guard.
But then it dropped off and you're disappointed again. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. But, I mean, we had Dementors in the first chapter last book, Matt.
It's true.
There was boom, 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 excitement, and I was all jazzed up, and it caught me off guard, and I was pumped up, and I was ready to record, and I was excited, and I was like, oh, this book's going to be great. And then there was that drop-off, sure. So I guess I don't know what I expected going into this first reading of this 6th book, but I guess I expected more than just a couple conversations and some real-life politics. You know? Like, that was a weird start to a book. I don't know.
Which is, I mean, it's really interesting because there are so many people who I've either talked to privately or wrote in emails this week that mention either actually, I think some people mention all three of these chapters in one form or another as being some of their favorites in the entire series.
I don't believe that for a second.
So I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
I'm broken, Matt. I'm just broken. I am not the quintessential Harry Potter fanatic at this point. I am definitely have carved my own path into the Harry Potter fandom, and
You certainly have.
there's certain things that just doesn't work for me, and long drawn out conversations that take up entire chapters definitely does not work for me, Matt. And unfortunately, that's all these chapters were. There was a combined 2, 5, 9 people and 3 conversations, pretty much, and it was just, I don't know. We'll get to it. Maybe as I talk more about it, I will be more interested in it. But I'm just.
It's happened before.
Yeah, it has. I could talk myself into anything. It seems like. What I am excited though is I hope everybody has either had a chance to listen to or at least has taken notice of the Muggle Theories episode that I put out, Muggle Theories number 9, where I lay out my entire line of predictions. I dip into my Trelawney impersonation as best as I possibly can, and I try to read as many tea leaves as possible, and I tried to predict all the big, major focal points of this book, with no knowledge going in whatsoever, other than the previous 5 books worth of knowledge, of course.
It's true.
Yeah.
What we all had going into this book, basically.
Right. Well, that's not fair, because I also had 5 movies going into
Also
this
true.
book as well.
Yeah.
Which you guys didn't have.
Not all 5, at least.
And that is only relevant because I bring that up as one of my points, one of my predictions that I made.
You did make a point of that, yeah.
Which, maybe it's just me looking too much into things, but I feel like because the movies were made after most of the books had come out, because I'm sure movie 5 had come out after book 7 was already released, right? Is that how the timing worked?
Oh, that's a good question. Like, I know movie 1 came out after book 4, but I'd have to look up the timeline again.
Regardless, the books were ahead of the movies. So by the time the movies were being made, they had plenty of things to pull from. Not necessarily that specific book, but they could also allude and hint at things that the movie makers already knew about the series based on the books.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
Yeah,
definitely.
Which isn't a big deal for most people, because most people aren't idiots like me, and if they cared enough to read the books before, they would have done so before watching the movies. Yeah, but there's at least one specific thing that I call out because of the movie. Anyway, what I'm saying is the Muggle Theories number 9 is out. I can't say with certainty that I feel confident in any of it.
Yeah.
I had put plenty of thought into certain things, but I also wavered on a couple different predictions by the time I sat down to record. That's how flip-floppy I was on things. For better or for worse,
All right. To answer your question quickly about timelines, it's actually a lot closer than I thought.
Okay.
So the 5th movie that you just watched came out July 11th of 2007.
Okay.
Deathly Hallows was released July 21st of 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it actually came out like 2 weeks, a fortnight after.
There we go. Nice. Nice usage. Man, that was a rad fortnight for Harry Potter fans, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, in any case, they at least had book 6 to pull from when they made movie 5.
Yeah.
In theory. Yeah. My predictions all over the board. I there's some things that I feel good about, not so much about some other things, but take a listen. It's out there. It's available now on all your podcast feeds. It's worth listening to play along on your bingo cards, the Muggle bingo cards, and see how well I do throughout the course of this book. Which is kind of ridiculous because all you guys could just listen to it once and know exactly how right and wrong I am. But let's play along. Let's stretch this out for my sake. So that's that. We should probably give away something for free, a cool little prize.
We like to do that.
Yeah. Last week we had the wonderful Val on the show joining us for the movie episode. It was a lot of fun. I hope everybody enjoyed her being on the show. I wonder how many of the emails will thank her for her time. But because, she is the reason that I hear specific voices when reading this book, because she reads the book to me. And she does so many different voices instinctually. We decided that we were going to do a cool little giveaway about what you guys, when you're reading the book, what distinctive voice do you hear most prominently in your head while you're reading the books? We decided that we were going to give away a Ravenclaw pen, P-E-N, pen.
You got it.
So cool. I'm so glad. I'm so happy for that. Matt, did we have some responses to that?
Oh, we had a few.
Okay.
It's like 13.
Cool. All the Ravenclaws. That's all there is out there. Just 13 Ravenclaws.
It's more than you knew about at the beginning. So
more than I believe there to be. That's for
yes, sure. Yes. At least you acknowledge them now.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard not to when you have someone carrying the flag like Luna.
Exactly.
See, if you just told me about Luna to begin with, Matt, like we could have just eliminated so many conversations.
I couldn't.
All those talking points could have just been erased from history with like just the mention of Luna Lovegood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's a tough number selection to choose from. What is Harry Potter's address?
For the first 2 weeks of this book,
yes.
It's number 4 Privet Drive.
Number 4 it is, Matt. Lucky number 4.
4 gives us Kyle Burkhart.
Kyle Burkhart. Congratulations, Kyle Burkhart. What did Kyle Burkhart write in and say was the voice that he hears in his head while reading his books?
So this is an answer I got from a number of people, actually.
Okay.
But he says, having listened to the audiobooks of Harry Potter so many times, I often hear Jim Dale's voice as both characters and narrator.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, because I have never listened to the audiobooks at all. Have you gotten to any of them yet?
No.
Like,
I'm planning
gone
on
back and listened at all or anything like that.
I desperately want to, and that's the first thing I'm going to do as soon as we wrap up these books. But I don't want to try to start listening to the first books now. My head would be a mess come time podcast rolls around that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Plus, there's going to be some crazy conspiracies that come from that. If I start like going back and picking through the very first book in this series, you thought I was wild with the crazy cat lady, Matt. There are some things in that book that I am very skeptical about, and you give me the opportunity to go back and dig through that, it's going to be interesting. So for the sake of this podcast, I'm choosing to wait until we're done reading.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's probably for the best.
But I will definitely, that is how I'm going to get through this series immediately afterwards. It is going to be the audiobooks.
All right.
Yeah. So congratulations to Kyle, and thank you to everybody that responded with that. Was there any responses that were like totally out of left field that you like didn't expect?
I mean, honestly, the audiobook answer was probably the one I'm most surprised with.
Sure.
We do get, we get a lot of Luna and Snape and Hermione.
Sure.
I think that covers a lot of it, actually.
Like, Snape is just like so... Yeah. Snape's voice, like, I could still hear, like, anytime.
It's tied to Alan Rickman forever.
It is, man. It is.
Yeah. He did such a good job. I mean, it's hard to say because, like, we've said time and time again, those movies were so perfectly cast that a lot of those voices, I have no problem using their voices in my head.
Right.
I mean,
some of them are like looks, though. Some of them are like mannerisms and everything like that. But like Snape's voice, is just that is Snape forever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Luna.
Yeah.
But
that floatiness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what role Luna plays in the next two films, you know, but like based on the first one, like I don't think she was in it enough for that to like hit home.
Be stuck in your head,
yeah. Like Snape, you know. I'm the guy that didn't even recognize that they switched Dumbledores, Matt. So I mean, that says a lot when like I could recognize a character based on just voice forever.
Yeah.
So, stick around for the end of the show. As always, we got another giveaway to do next week. We'll have a fun way to participate in that, I'm sure. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'll make it up as we go, folks. So, as I'm trying to wake up as we talk about these next 3 chapters, I'll put something together in my head. I hope.
Fair enough.
Matt, let's go ahead and get started with Book 6, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Let's do it.
All right. Chapter 1, The Other Minister.
Mm-hmm.
And as you might expect, in Chapter 1, we do have technically only one new character.
Right.
You might argue with me on that, but because my one new character is Hubert Chorley.
Nope. I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah. He's the guy who went crazy, who is quacking.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, the junior minister.
Yep, the junior minister. Yes.
Okay. Who we'll probably never hear from again, so who cares? So the prime minister, like, are we not counting them because we didn't get his name at all?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, yeah, we haven't met him before, but he's just like the prime minister. Okay,
yeah,
sure.
He's a figure. He's not like a character.
Yeah, like that's the way I've usually been running them. Is wait until we get a name and then I put them on the list.
Question.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we get the name of the president from a far off country who tends to be a wretched man?
No, we did not get his name.
What did J.K. Rowling know back when she wrote this book about future presidencies of far off lands?
I couldn't tell you.
I had to stop for a second and try to remind myself when this book was written, because that was so on the nose, Matt, that it just okay.
So just to touch on that briefly, I don't want to dive into too much, but I couldn't show you this or tell you anything about this until after last book, really. But during this last presidential campaign, you probably wouldn't even noticed it because you didn't know the characters.
Sure.
But there was a picture floating around of our two presidential candidates, except it was a picture of Umbridge and Lockhart.
Boy.
It's like, yeah. That's, I can see that.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. Okay. Now, it's not fair to assume that the president from a far off country that J.K. is referring to in the first chapter of this book is of the United States of America. It just,
true. She doesn't mention.
Being a United States citizen, I tend to immediately place ownership onto anything that comes across my way because that's what we do in America. So,
it's what you have the most knowledge of. So,
also, I know many countries out there have presidents. Like, that is a worldwide used term for leaders of countries, especially countries that, practice democracy. Regardless, it's hard not to, just immediately make that relevant to our own situation here in the States. But regardless, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question then about new characters.
Yeah.
This Rufus fella.
Okay, so we didn't have a first name before, but he has been mentioned, and he's been on my list.
Okay.
He was mentioned back in book 5.
Okay.
Chapter 7.
Okay.
The only reference we had to him, which is why you won't remember him at all.
Sure.
But Harry comes into the room, and Lupin glanced at Harry, then said to Tonks, "What were you saying about Scrimgeour?" "Oh, yeah, well, we need to be a bit more careful. He's been asking Kingsley and me funny questions."
Gotcha. Huh. Okay.
Which plays in well with his role, as we find out.
Sure.
He was the head of the Auror office.
Right.
Which, so he was basically in charge of Kingsley and Tonks, and if he's questioning them, yeah,
he's being nosy about some things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. No, I would never argue that. I just always assume that it's somebody that I completely forgot about. So,
and that's exactly why I brought out, because I know it's just one brief mention. You weren't going to remember it. You had no reason to remember it. But
so one topic of conversation that Val and I had, how do you pronounce his last name?
I always struggle with it.
Okay.
Because I think it has too many vowels.
It has a lot of things.
So I usually just kind of smash it together and mumble a little bit. Honestly, Scrimgeour.
Okay, I like it. Can we just refer to him as Rufus? I doubt there's going to be a second Rufus in this story.
Absolutely. I am quite okay with Rufus.
Okay. Cool. Excellent.
Or even the new minister.
Yeah.
If you have to.
Let's just break it down to Rufus.
Right,
I don't know how much respect I need to give this guy yet, so we'll stick with Rufus until he earns a different title. All right. Well, one new character. Fantastic. The little dude in the painting was not named either, right?
Yeah, we didn't get. We barely got a description. Just that it was a painting that moved around. So
he have silver haired.
Yeah. The interesting part is, though, that you would think it is most likely, unless everybody who comes in that office is, has their memory modified. You would think it's a picture of a Muggle.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Which makes it interesting that it can move, I think.
Unless it's not like a portrait, more so just like a painting. Not painting, a piece of art, Like,
yeah,
it's not supposed to necessarily represent anybody specifically that anybody would recognize, but just
so maybe more like Sir Cadogan or the Fat Lady.
That's what I was picturing.
Okay,
with the description, you know, like,
but
that's a cool piece of art that's been hanging in the PM's office for decades now. Let's just keep that up there.
You see, when I think of something like that, like, I figure if it's the Prime Minister's office, what is going to have pictures of? Probably like former prime ministers or something, or, you know, like that's what I picture. Like in the White House, we have pictures of former presidents.
Yeah, yeah, but they have art elsewhere,
sure,
in different rooms. You know, who knows? Like, you can only stare at like old dead guys for so long before it's just like, you know what? I would prefer just like a sunny little hillside, you know, Windows desktop screensaver type of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, chapter 1. Other minister. We got some real world politics going on. That's weird.
This chapter, I think, more than any other, should help to drive home how much the worlds overlap.
You know, that's what I was thinking the entire time. I was like, you know, I bet Matt wishes that back in book 1, he could have directed me to this chapter and said, see, this is how it works.
If this chapter didn't give you a recap of the past 3 books, then yes, I could have directed you to this chapter and say, just don't worry about context. You see, things overlap, and like, no. But yeah, I obviously couldn't do that.
Sure. But in your head, I feel like you referenced this chapter, like when you're like silently arguing with me about things. Like, just wait. You'll get it. You'll understand. I promise.
It will be explained.
Yeah. I get it. To me, it was the most out of left field, out of place chapter that we've read in 6 books now. Okay,
well, here's part of why I think it seems and feels so different to you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you picked up on this even, but I haven't heard you say it yet. This is... I was having this discussion with Brent during our hangout this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned that this is the first chapter since chapter 1 of book 1, if you can even count that, that is not from Harry's perspective.
Yeah,
right?
the only one I was immediately thinking of was the beginning of book 4, but that was a dream.
And people always try to bring that one up, and we did discuss that.
Yeah.
But we learned right at the end of the chapter, Harry woke up and he was dreaming it.
Right.
What we were seeing, like, it felt as we were reading it like it wasn't from his perspective, but I think it still was.
Yeah.
I would argue that it still was.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Especially because it comes back into play at the end and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Regardless, though, there are very, very, very few chapters that are not from Harry's perspective.
And this book starts out with 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. 2 of them, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason why it feels different.
Yeah.
I think for some people, it might be why they like the chapters, or it might help them. But for you, apparently... it has the opposite effect and kind of turns you off from it a little bit.
I just felt weird. I'm like, I'm trying to escape like real world politics when I read this book, and I'm not trying to think about like the Prime Minister of England right now, and I'm not trying to like think about what he's doing in his office, and it just it lacked any sort of like like, despite the fact that a guy came out of a chimney in a fireplace. It lacked, and there was a talking painting and all that good stuff. It lacked a magical feeling to it. It was just bland and blah and politics and blah. And yeah, it just,
But they were, they were talking, they didn't really talk too much politics. They kept talking about the magical things.
Matt, we talked about climate change, for crying out loud.
What do you mean?
They talked about climate change, how unusual it was for it to be so cold in July.
Because of the Dementors.
I know, but they framed it around it being like from the PM's perspective.
Exactly. That's how he was picturing it. This is how the Muggles picture it. But then in pops the Fudge and then the new minister. How it's not actually anything the Muggles are doing. It's all has to do with the magical world.
Matt, I don't want this story in the perspective of Muggles. Unless it's Jacob Kowalski.
Says the Muggle.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm proud of my perspective. I like making fun of Muggles, Matt. I like Mr. Weasley, like, being aloof and trying to, like, figure out how the Muggle world works, and, like, being charming and, like, endearing towards the Muggles, but, like, still, like, you know, there's still a certain element of, like, yeah, we humans do silly things when it, like, you break it down in, like, how a wizarding perspective, you know? Also, like, the most prominent Muggles in the story are the Dursleys, and let's be real, their perspective isn't super awesome. The only perspective of a Muggle that I want is Jacob. That's it. And he's not in this story, so let's just move on from Muggle perspectives altogether.
It's one chapter.
It's too much, Matt. Okay, it was interesting. There were some interesting things in it.
Yes.
Fudge got canned, which I
think I applaud.
Yeah, I think I predicted in my live tweet storm when I was watching the film, because there's like a newspaper clipping in the movie about like Fudge, like a news article questioning whether or not Fudge was going to step down as Minister of Magic.
Yeah.
So I think when I was live tweeting, I was like, is that foreshadowing of what's to come? Yeah, of course. He's done. He's an idiot. Get him out of here. The fact that he's still allowed to be like a representative of... It's ridiculous. Whatever. But yeah, it's cool that this new Rufus dude and the Prime Minister of England, Great Britain, whatever, are talking, and like they're exchanging notes, and I don't, it's just weird, Matt. I don't know. I will say, when it was described as like a small, quiet cough behind him,
yeah,
I almost threw my computer. Because I said, if this is a him type of soft cough, I'm going to lose. If we start out book 6 with Dumbridge in the Prime Minister's office, I quit. I am done. So I'm glad it didn't go there. But I think JK was messing with people with that. You know, there's different ways to get a hold of people. And I think she intentionally was like, a quiet little cough, huh? What are people going to associate that with? And maybe it's just because I'm fresh off of, you know, getting over Dumbridge, but I was frightened to death. And then it was nobody, and I was like, whatever, cool. Stupid painting. You
would have been more into this chapter if Umbridge did come back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a completely negative way, but I would have a million more things to say about it. It'd be me ranting for 30 minutes about how awful it was. We found out, no surprise, that Fudge knew that Tom was back for years now. Shocking. Of course he knew.
He finally admitted it.
Yeah. He knew.
Like,
we all knew he knew.
He didn't believe it until he saw him with his own eyes.
I feel like he believed it.
No.
I feel like he couldn't lie about it anymore.
Maybe.
Tom's killing muggles just for the heck of it. Cool. No surprise. Dropping bridges, killing folks.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Now we're just going to associate all the horrible things happening in this world to little old Tom. Little weak Tom. He's not that weak. He's pretty powerful, but, you know. You're trying to inflate his ego at all, Matt.
I know.
We had an Amelia Bones reference. Cool. Yep. Forgot she was a thing.
Well, unfortunately, now she's not a thing.
She's not anymore.
But killed personally by Voldemort, that's something.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Put in the stat books. Number of people killed by Voldy. Ding, 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 ding.
We learned the location of Azkaban.
Oh, yeah.
Did you catch that?
East Ocean something.
The North Sea, yes.
North Sea. I was close. I knew it was a direction. And a body of water.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We learned that Dementors are breeding. That sounds frightening.
That is very disturbing.
So many levels.
And, like, the Dementors are breeding, and that's what's causing the mist? What?
Yeah. That cold mist that's covering the country in the middle of July. Yeah. That's the Dementor breeding process. Ugh. Makes me cringe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably best Muggles don't know about that part.
Be thankful they can't see it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think the biggest part of the chapter was at the end.
Yeah?
Yeah. A good friend, Kingsley Shacklebolt.
Yes.
He's running Secret Service detail for the Prime Minister.
Without him knowing it. This is Kingsley the Secretary. Yes.
How many jobs does this guy have at once?
Far too many.
Yeah. He's a workhorse.
But, I mean, you seen Kings, like, you read about him. I think you kind of already liked him.
Yeah.
But then you got to see him in a movie.
Yep.
Can you picture this guy sitting down at a desk and being someone's secretary?
What I picture is, like, because he's a strong, like, manly man, right? Like, yeah. I picture him almost going like the Clark Kent route, like wearing like a super tight button-up shirt and like little tiny glasses and like trying to be like super office professional, but it's like, dude, clearly you're not a secretary. Like, stop. This is a little ridiculous even for our sake,
Sure.
But, like, he just tries. He tries to blend in. He's a chameleon, that guy.
Apparently he was doing well because the Prime Minister had no idea.
Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, Kingsley. He's, like, my favorite dude. He's like, yeah, he's a wizard.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of him. It's like, oh, wait, now?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that part. And I was like, man, where was this entertainment early on in the chapter when I could barely stay awake during it? I don't know what it was, Matt. It was just a weird chapter overall, my friend.
Well, I mean, two things. Like, one, we said it's not from Harry's perspective, so it threw you off in the first place. Yeah. Then, essentially, it was the review chapter, which you're never too hot on either.
No, but, like, at least it didn't, like, break down, like, Harry's backstory once again. Like, I feel like every time we're introduced to Harry Potter, it's the same time. It's the same thing of us getting like reintroduced to Spider-Man. It's like, yes, we know how he became Spider-Man. We know he got bit by a spider. We know his uncle's dead. Like, we know, or Batman. Like, we know his parents are dead. We know he's wealthy orphan. Blah blah blah. You can only hear that so many times about Harry Potter and like how he became the Harry Potter that we know and love today.
Sure.
So it was kind of a recap, but I think it was, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't care that it was a recap because I didn't care about the rest of the chapter either, so I just called it all a wash. But you're right, it was a recap chapter.
Yep.
Maybe it was best to throw it in a chapter that nobody cared about. That way nobody could get mad about it. I don't know. That was chapter 1, man.
It was.
Just a weird start to the book. By the end of that chapter, I started to have my doubts about what I was getting into with this book. I I had to question whether or not we were reading the right book. I was like, this is weird. Is this a weird spin-off that I didn't know about? Nope.
I was going to say, yeah, there were all of one person you really recognized in Fudge, and then, Rufus was there, who briefly mentioned, and Amelia Bones, and I guess Voldemort was named, but yeah. You get into Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Where's Harry Potter?
Yeah. If it wasn't for the Merlin's beard exclamation, Matt, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have believed this was actually the right book.
I've heard of stories about this where people think they're reading the next book, and then they're doing online or something, and so they don't have the physical book. And it turns out they started reading fanfic.
Oh yeah, this could easily fall into that category.
Yeah. And they get really confused. Yeah.
Yeah. Except if this was fanfic, that 100% would have been Dumbridge, given it him, and then it would have just spiraled out of control from there. So
sure.
Let's all be thankful that it wasn't that.
I'm okay with that.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Spinner's End.
I will say, after learning the title of this chapter, I was even more concerned that we were not anywhere close to reading the right book. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but that's the most confusing chapter title we've had yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got mentions of a few new characters. We didn't actually meet any of them, but we got Yaxley, the Carrows, and Greyback.
Were they all Death Eaters?
Yes.
I don't know those names.
I'm trying to think how they were introduced here.
Is it when Bellatrix was rambling off, or Snape was rambling off the people that bailed, that didn't go looking for Voldy after he died? Allegedly.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's at one point a string of names. I'm just like, no, whatever.
Yep.
Death Eaters.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that string.
the random goons of the bad guys that,
there were a couple others in the list, like Lucius Malfoy and stuff that you recognized.
Sure.
Those were the new names.
Yeah. But every good bad guy, every good villain has his goons, and sometimes you get to know their first name or their last name, but ultimately, you never have to remember what it is.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
All right.
Yeah. Chapter 2. Okay. Super confusing. Again, another whole chapter, not from Harry's perspective.
Yep.
Pretty much just one long conversation between three people.
It's true, but you think if that's a whole chapter, it's got to have some significance, right?
I mean, there were some things to pull out from it. There was definitely... This chapter brought me back into the wizarding world that I didn't feel like I was in the first chapter.
Sure.
So that was a good thing.
It once again helps that we have all wizards on the scene, that you've met all of them before.
Yeah. Yeah. Death Eaters are killing foxes out in the countryside. Cool.
Yeah, I think, okay. One note I do want to make before that, because of the way it's written here.
Okay.
We haven't talked a lot about apparating.
Yeah.
But we're getting to see a lot more adult wizards now outside of Hogwarts.
Right.
Because they can't do this in Hogwarts, and that's where they spend most of their time, so they don't see a lot of apparating.
Allegedly. There's still a chance that you're just lying to me about that, and they end up apparating all kinds.
That's Hermione. What are you talking about? She's the one that told us that.
What does
She's
she
in Hogwarts
know?
History. She reads books.
That's true. Okay, continue.
But the point that is made about there was a soft pop when Narcissa came, and then there was a much louder pop when Bellatrix came.
Yeah.
And like we've kind of touched on this briefly before, and we will more and more as we learn more about it. But I think I think she's trying to set up that there is different levels of skill in apparating, and the sound with which you can do it, how quiet you can keep it, seems to be a skill.
So you associate that with skill, huh?
I would.
I was associating it with personality.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking maybe Bellatrix could do it better, but she was in such a rush to catch up to her sister that she didn't care.
Yeah,
if she concentrates on it more, sure, she could do it better. But yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. It is partly personality, but I think that I think, at least, I have no confirmation of this.
Sure.
I think that puts it at a different skill level too.
Yeah. I just look at the two women, and we haven't really got to know Narcissa very much up until this chapter. But we've met her a couple times. Bellatrix, we know about what happened and blah, blah, blah. But, like, the way in my head I'm picturing these two characters, Bellatrix is far more loud and bold and doesn't have a lot of tact. She's reckless. She doesn't care. Like, she's a wrecking ball, Narcissa, she feels to me like she is more delicate, more careful, more quiet, more reserved, more prim and proper of the two sisters, So, like, the different apparating, like, of course she would do it quietly because, like, that kind of reflects who she is as a person all the time. Whereas Bellatrix, like, she wants everybody to know when she's there.
You see, I have one other example that you could very easily apply your argument to as well. Is the other people we've seen recently do a lot of apparating is Fred and George. And they're always noted to be kind of loud too.
Yeah.
And I mean, once again, yes, that's a personality. They want people to notice that they're doing it just because they can.
Yeah. And I think they like to startle people and make them jump,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So once again, your argument works, but once again, I'm saying they just learned how that's
sure,
where they're at in their training.
Yeah.
So I can see it either way. Until we have more examples.
Yeah, until I know more. I mean, I'm just basing it off of like how I saw the two sisters. Like, they are quite opposite people.
I think your analysis is spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't look at them and how they've been described and say, like, Bellatrix is a far less skilled witch than Narcissa, because I don't know anything about Narcissa, to be honest, but, Bellatrix did just take out Sirius, so I feel like she's pretty decent in what she does, but who knows? I think it's bad news that they're hanging out together. I did have a moment where I couldn't quite remember if I knew they were sisters or it was just implied. I want to say when Sirius Black was like going over his family tree, like that's when we learned about it.
That's when we learned about a lot of connections.
Okay.
I don't think we ever discussed necessarily them being sisters.
Okay.
Or anything like that. But
definitely related though, right?
We did learn that Narcissa was a Black.
Right.
So we knew that much. And yeah, so I mean, and well, Bellatrix used to be a Black too. I mean, now Lestrange, but
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ever specifically said before. I couldn't remember either.
Yeah.
It didn't jump out at me as
like
being...
ever implicitly said, yeah, they were sisters.
Yeah. I didn't see that and say, oh yeah, of course they're totally sisters. But I also sat there and thought, yeah, that's totally possible. A minor detail I might have overlooked because Narcissa's never been a part of the story in any relevant way.
Yeah.
And Bellatrix just got out of Azkaban, so, why did I care about her before?
Yeah, we're just learning more about her.
I was more curious about her last name and her family lineage than I was her as a character.
Sure.
So, anyway, sisters.
But yeah, getting back, when you were mentioning personality, the first thing you mentioned in this chapter was the fox, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought showed more personality than anything. And it kind of why it's in there, because we're still learning about Bellatrix, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Bellatrix pops in here and just shoots first, asks questions later, like that tells you a lot about. Like she didn't try to like stun him or anything. She's just like, I'm killing whatever in that bush over there. It's like, oh, just a fox. Thought it might have been a person.
Yeah.
But wait, you would have just killed a person?
See, I don't know if that's her or if I chalk that up to being a Death Eater.
How is that not one and the same?
It might be. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out where these Death Eaters are, Matt.
She's a Death Eater. She claims to be Voldy's #1 supporter. I mean,
yeah, she is Tom's #1 fangirl. So, I just, there's a chance that maybe Death Eaters are misunderstood.
Right.
It's possible, Matt. Maybe not everybody that's chosen to be a Death Eater or have a Death Eater wand is a bad person.
Chosen to be? Oh, gee. No one is chosen to be a Death Eater. They all chose.
Matt, sometimes Death Eater wands choose them, and it's just like, well, guess I gotta be a Death Eater now.
No. No. I'm no.
Matt, I'm trying to justify the fact that I own a Death Eater wand.
I
for crying out loud.
understand what you're trying to do. I'm not gonna allow it.
Okay. Well, the people will back me up on this. Okay, so where is this chapter going, right? Two sisters out killing foxes, running around the countryside. They're going to some street called Spinner's End.
Yes.
Cool. That's the explanation for the chapter title.
Yep.
Weird, JK. Weird. It's strange. So who's in this house?
Did you figure it out before?
No, I did. Matt, I was so checked out at this point, I couldn't care less who was in that house. I'm like, they're probably just going to another Death Eater's house. Whatever. I don't care. Maybe they're looking for Tom. Maybe that's where he's hiding. Who cares? I did not have the time or the energy to put in thoughts as to who might be in the house.
All right.
Because quickly it was revealed to be Snape.
Yes.
And I'm just like, oh crap, here we go. That dirty, dirty, nasty Slytherin couldn't be trusted, Matt. Just like I've been saying since book 1, Snape is a bad dude. The fact that he's your favorite character concerns me to so many levels, especially after this chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my predictions in my Muggle Theories episode, Matt, was that this was going to be a big book for Snape.
You did mention that a few times, I think.
He has an entire chapter laying out how bad of a dude he really is. And I'm just like, okay, all right, this is the real Snape here. Now, I had a moment, Matt, where I wondered if this was all just a swerve. Is Snape putting on a show for the snake? For the snake. Whew. Freudian slip there. For the sake of being a super secret double agent like he's been believed to be this whole time. By certain people.
Yeah.
Maybe this is all an act, just to shut Bellatrix up. There is just something about all of this that's just gross, and it just makes me feel very uncomfortable. Snape is just, I don't trust him, Matt. I don't trust him. I don't trust him being at Hogwarts. I went back to my, I need to seriously question Dumbledore's motives here, because how could he do this? How could he fall for this? Snape is a manipulative, egomaniac looking for revenge and power and chaos. He just wants to see the world burn. I have so many thoughts, and this chapter, I every time Snape is involved, I get that, like, goosebumps on my neck feeling. Like, oh god, there's Snape. And I know that's what the character is supposed to do, but I've been holding out hope that there was a light at the end of the tunnel for Snape.
Yeah.
This chapter did nothing to make me feel like that's possible. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this is a red herring. Maybe this is a whole chapter to completely throw me off the scent. I don't know, man. Him just laying out his entire, like, career at Hogwarts and, like, how deep he is in, like, working for the Dark Lord and made my skin crawl. But before we get to all that, can we just appreciate the fact that Wormtail has been reduced to the role of a house elf?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He's essentially Voldemort's house elf, and he sent him to go help out Snape. Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah. I don't like that he keeps hiding behind doors.
Yeah, but I
do like that Snape comments on it. It's like, yeah, recently he started, like, listening by doors, and I'm not sure what brought that on.
I like that JK refers to him moving around as scurrying.
Yep.
Because I'm just like, yep, that's Wormtail.
And when he talks, he always has a squeaky voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Those characteristics will never.
That guy's just creepy. His whole look is etched into my brain thanks to the movies. Ugh, gross. Okay, so Bellatrix is, like, pressuring Snape about, like, essentially his loyalty to the Death Eaters, to Voldy himself, you know, to the whole plan of action. She brings up some solid points, right? It's like,
she does.
Okay, I see where she's coming from. You know, I would have some questions too if I was her. And then Snape does what Snape does best, and he talks his way out of it.
Yeah. Especially when, like, he brings up the point that, well, Voldemort trusts me, so why don't you?
Yeah.
And Bellatrix just, like, blatantly questions Voldemort's judgment.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I don't think he has it right. And, like, if you don't trust Voldemort's judgment, what are you doing as his number one follower?
Well, I don't trust Dumbledore's judgment, but here we are. And that's the other scary part, is he has both Dumbledore and Voldy trusting him implicitly, from what we could tell.
Yeah.
That's a level of power that most people will never realize. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The only one that doesn't trust him, that I would be concerned about if I was him, is Harry Potter. Because we all know Harry doesn't trust him at all. Rightfully so. But so, I mean, Snape's been helping out Voldy all along. I mean, he helped, you know, make sure people knew that the Order was coming. I think he helped Voldy know specifically that the Order was coming to the Ministry of Magic on that fateful night. Everything about, like, everything Snape was saying was just gross. Like, Snape, why would you, like, the fact that he showed up after the Dark Mark, right? That's what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. First appeared 2 hours after the fact because he wanted Dumbledore's permission first, or he wanted Dumbledore to suggest that he go.
Yeah, he wanted it to be at Dumbledore's suggestion, so he could keep his job. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, he manipulates every single every single little scene that he can. Just, I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time swallowing that Snape is more than what we saw in this chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more Snape talked his way out of all of these valid points that Bellatrix was making, and being very rational and reasonable and calm, cool, and collective, like Snape always is.
Mm-hmm.
Bellatrix is just like showing that she's completely unhinged 24/7. Like, she's a lunatic.
That's who she is, yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that she is committed to her lunacy.
Yeah,
100%.
I honestly, like, I think that's why she survived so well in Azkaban.
Yeah. Demeter's like, we're not touching her. Like, get away.
Like,
she scares us.
She's just that crazy, that far gone.
Yeah.
That it's just, it didn't phase her. Like, that. She's not like other people.
No, she's a different level of crazy that most people will never fully understand. I kind of appreciate that about her. You know, she leans into that 100%. Let's see. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about before we get to Draco?
Not too much. The one interesting thing, like, I never really thought about until it's brought up here is, so that they were going through how, like, Snape has been acting these past 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the one big one that's brought up is like, well, what about Quirrell? Like, how come you didn't understand back then?
Yeah.
And that the fact that he brings up that Voldemort wasn't sure he could trust him yet, and so he didn't let him know, and he thought he was just trying to stop Quirrell from getting the stone.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you didn't know Voldemort was possessing. Like, that's an interesting thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll have to think about that one some more. But
also, it made me think of Quirrell for the first time in a while, and I was just like, man, he was a loser. Like, that was a really bad guy, you know? Out of everybody that we've met since Quirrell, like, he's so far down the totem pole.
Mm-hmm.
It's unreal. That dude, he's something else.
I mean, I think part of it is he was easy to possess, easy to take over, easy to control.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure. Okay, so Narcissa, you know, Bellatrix is there because she's grilling Snape. She wants to know where he stands in all this. You know, it feels like she came because she needed to feel like he could be trusted. You know, I get that, you know.
Well, I mean, she came there straight up to ask him.
Yeah.
I think she already trusted him enough for her. Like she didn't need any clarification. She didn't need any justification.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Bellatrix is a wild card. Narcissa was there for a completely different reason, though. She's kind of losing it because dear old Lucius is locked up at this moment. Good riddance. I'm sure that won't last long. But she's not really worried about him. She's more concerned about what his incompetence during the whole prophecy fiasco will lead to regarding her precious baby boy, Draco. We find out that Draco has been tasked personally by Voldy himself with a very important side gig.
Yes.
We don't know what that is.
No, they keep it very vague.
We assume he's still going to be at Hogwarts, but he has like an undercover mission to try to accomplish at some point.
Draco has been chosen.
Yes. And, you know, Narcissa is afraid that he was chosen because in Voldy's eyes, he's expendable because of Lucius being not high on his favorite person list.
Yeah, and Snape definitely does nothing to help that opinion.
He's like, yeah, he's pretty mad, not gonna lie. Yeah.
He's really mad at you, and he probably doesn't care if Draco dies.
You'd probably kill Lucius right now if he could, so, you should be worried, definitely. Snape's just cold-hearted, man. He just doesn't care. He has no chill at all. But Narcissa, she's frantic at this point. She's like, I can't lose my son. Like, this is a suicide mission, whatever this is. And then something happens. An unbreakable vow.
Yes,
is proposed.
The unbreakable vow.
I didn't know these were a thing.
No one really did up until this point.
It's very interesting. I have some questions how these work. How many qualifications can you add to this unbreakable vow? Because she made Snape promise one thing, and then another thing, and then another thing. How many more things could you add into the unbreakable vow once you start? Is there a limit to this? How does this exactly work?
I would say there's probably not a limit.
As long as the other person keeps agreeing to it?
Exactly. I think it's all up to the other person as long as they agree.
Yeah. I guess it's really a good test of character, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. See what they're down for. It made me think of best friends. There's always that running joke of they're your best friend if they will help you hide a body.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, okay, I see where this is going. You really get to know how much you can trust a person once you start getting into this territory.
Yeah.
So basically Snape agreed to be Draco's bodyguard at Hogwarts, make sure he's safe and protected, which is, okay, sure, he's been doing that for 5 years, so what's the difference?
Yeah.
But the big thing was that he agrees to complete the deed that Draco is tasked to do if Draco is unable to successfully do it.
That would be the big thing, yes.
And I just feel like that third little thing was added into this because we may see that play out. We may see Snape try his very best to fulfill this deed, this gig that Draco has himself for whatever reasons. I have no idea what it is. I couldn't even begin to start speculating what it is, but
it just kind of makes me uneasy to think that Narcissa has such little faith in her son.
I mean, he's 16,
Yeah, but her whole thing is, I don't think he can do it.
Right. Which means it might be a pretty big thing. I don't think it's kidnap a house elf from the kitchen and make him talk about, Dumbledore's secrets or something like that, it has to be something bigger and something more dangerous and risky and something that may require the power of a far greater wizard than Draco is at this point. Who knows? I don't know. Is it to kill Harry? I don't know. Potentially. But I feel like if, Voldy couldn't do it, I don't think Draco has a chance.
Yeah. And, I mean, we've kind of talked about that, Voldemort always kind of wants to do that himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of always been the thing.
Sure.
So that's kind of why no one has touched him up until now.
Right. Snape hesitated before he agreed to it.
There was a bit of hesitation in there, yes.
So my question, which I know you can't answer,
Mm-hmm.
but just putting that out in the universe, did he hesitate because it's something that he doesn't want to do? Or did he hesitate because it's something that he doesn't think he would even be able to do? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why the hesitation.
Well, I can tell you my first reaction when I first read this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
The question I had was, so without knowing what actually happened, obviously, my first time through, I always wondered, is Snape doing this? Did he honestly just agree to that, just to kind of to get Bellatrix's reaction?
Sure.
Like, Bellatrix was he won't do it. He won't do it. He'll never do it.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
like,
watch me.
Just to prove her wrong.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was honestly my first reaction. It's like, I think she just kind of goaded him into it.
Right. Yeah. It's possible. At the same time, like, he could have said no. You know, he could have been like, no, your son's going to fail, and I'm not getting my hands dirty with whatever this is, because that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm here for. That will blow my cover, or whatever the case is. You know, that's not going to work out. I can't do that. Or maybe he just knows that, like, yeah, Voldy is definitely setting Draco up to die, because he's just that mad and malicious and vengeful, and he's like, whatever, you know, get rid of this dumb kid, and I'm done with his family. Oh, God, hopefully that's the case. But then Snape is like, oh, man, I don't want to get in the middle of that, you know? Who knows? Who knows what it is, Matt?
Yeah.
I just feel like that last part was definitely included because we're going to see that play out, or the potential of that playing out is going to be impactful to the story. But the other stuff, of course he's going to protect Draco as much as he can. That's what he lives and breathes to do, is to protect Draco and his Slytherin cronies. So, whatever. We'll see. We'll see this play out in 28 more chapters, so.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, Will and Won't.
I don't even understand the title of this chapter. And even being done with the chapter, I went back and I was like, I don't know where that came into place.
You didn't get it?
No.
I specifically made a note of it because I thought it was kind of clever.
Okay. First of all, did we have any new characters?
No.
Okay. Didn't think so. So what's with the title?
So it's two separate things that she just, like I said, cleverly put into a fairly familiar phrase.
Oh, the won't. I know the won't. Okay.
Yeah. So the will is Sirius's will.
Oh, duh. Okay.
That he left, and then the won't is Creature won't.
Good job, JK.
Yeah.
Well done. Stupid Creature. We got our word of the week in this chapter, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure every time I read it, I look it up and it's like, is that a typo?
Yeah. Nope.
Like,
100% thought that was a typo. Val stopped and she was like, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to say fog, but it says fug.
Yeah. And I look it up every time and it's like, yeah, British informal. I'm like, oh, okay, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, JK, for using essentially British slang
to describe a warm, stuffy, or smoky atmosphere in a room.
Yeah. And like I'm pretty sure I've heard that like there are different versions. Like there is a British version of the book and then the American version of the book, and they edited a lot of that stuff out. And so like I'm surprised we can get to stuff like that. And it's like they left that in.
Yeah.
Like you could easily change that to like fog, because it's like
our listeners laughed at us for not knowing what Fortnite was, right?
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, for
that.
You, I knew what Fortnite was.
Sure, but I mean, it wasn't something that you still included in your vocabulary until recently.
Yeah, no, I purposely tried to insert it, yes.
But, like, it definitely, like, is in our vocabulary, just not a lot, but it's there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I made a note of it on Twitter the other night. Some folks I know some of those other folks saw it, but Al Michaels during an American football game on the air, to millions of people, used the word Fortnite, and it's like, yeah, so people use it. Yeah. Okay, fine. It's still not prevalent, but yeah people use it. Fine.
But the word fug, I can guarantee that has never been spoken on American soil, unless it's read in this book, or it's from somebody that came over from England.
And even then, I don't know. Like, I mean, to be honest, if someone from Britain said the word fug with their accent,
oh yeah,
I would probably hear it as like fog,
right?
And I think it was just an accent thing. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't think of it as another word.
Right. So this is where I got to call out to our lovely listeners down in Australia and New Zealand, because you guys have some bizarre language choices down there. Is this a word that you guys use on a regular basis? Is this...
Did that one carry over from Britain?
Yeah. Or is this like solely in England and nowhere else? Did it jump across the pond at all, or is it isolated?
Or if anyone in America has ever heard this too.
No, I'm not even asking that. I know the answer to that one, Matt.
If anyone has, though, I want to hear about
it. Yeah. You know who would actually might have heard that at some point? Our friend Katie, the court reporter. If there's ever a word that she's typed that would be fug, like, she would be the one,
Yeah.
Other than that, like, there's no way. All of our teachers out there that listen, no, nobody's using that word. Get out of here. Harry Potter, this book, Half-Blood Prince, made that word a thing.
Sure.
Like Muggle,
Yeah.
Chapter 3, Matt.
I just realized before we actually get into Chapter 3.
Yeah.
We should take a step back.
Muggle Pole.
Good
call, Matt. I was just excited because we finally got a chapter that reminded us that this book is about Harry Potter.
I understand.
Goodness gracious, he's still in this story.
Well, I mean, it's a good time for a Muggle poll. We've been talking a lot of Muggles.
I feel like you made this week's reading 3 chapters just so that I wouldn't go an entire week without saying Harry Potter's name.
It has been brought up, actually.
Well, you know what I mean.
Like, I had just made the schedule, and then some people commented. It's like, are we going to read 3 chapters right away so we actually get to Harry Potter? Like, yeah, that's part of the reason. Yeah.
Okay, going back to our Muggle poll.
Yes.
We put our Muggle poll up every week about 4 p.m. Pacific time over on our Twitter account at Tales from GH. Has something to do with the reading for the week. Matt proposes a question, has some multiple choices out there for people. Sometimes it encourages more comments, more explanation, like this week. Matt, what was your question for the Muggle poll this week?
I want to know, would you ever agree to an unbreakable vow? And if so, what would you use it on, or like, what would the circumstances be? Yeah.
What were the
strictly
choices? Just yes or no?
Yes or no question.
Okay. Fair enough.
Would you or would you not? I didn't try to entice you with a butterbeer this week.
What did the people say, Matt?
We have a whopping 75% on no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, 75% no, 25% yes.
Where'd you vote?
I went with yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know why I said yes?
Why is that?
Because I already agreed to one, Matt.
What's that?
Doing this show.
You have almost broken that many times, though.
I wanted to, but I couldn't. Something drew me back in by the force of magic to prevent me from breaking it, Matt.
Sure.
I vow to you that I would finish this series over the course of a podcast.
It's true.
Yeah. There's no way you would ever let me break that. I know Alex is sitting over there on the sidelines.
I have Alex in my back pocket.
Yeah, sorry, Alex. Unbreakable vows. But I like, dangling that carrot in front of him just a little bit sometimes. Yeah, interesting. Interesting that 75% of the people said no unbreakable vows.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, did they really describe like what the circumstances of breaking an unbreakable vow is?
We don't really get that here, no.
Okay. Is it explored later on?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Punishable by death, I imagine. Or something far worse.
Something like that seems reasonable, right?
Sure. I mean, who knows?
It's an unbreakable vow.
Yeah.
I mean, from the title, you would think that it cannot be broken.
Right.
Like, kind of like, I equate this kind of to the whole secret keeper thing, right?
Right.
So, like, they're protecting the location of the Order of the Phoenix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that if you tell the location, you will be punished. It's you can't give anybody the location unless you are the secret keeper.
Right.
Like Snape even mentioned that in the previous chapter. It's like, I couldn't speak the name of the location.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't the secret keeper. Like, I just couldn't. It was physically impossible.
Mm-hmm. There's always loopholes,
Yeah.
Nothing's 100% set in stone. And even if it is, stone can be broken. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to know the repercussions for trying to break or potentially breaking an unbreakable vow. But
yeah,
obviously, if 75% of our listening audience said no, they would definitely never initiate one of those. I have to think that it's more than like a bowl of ice cream that you get if you break it or something. So, now can we move on to Chapter 3?
We can.
Okay. Thank you to everybody that participated in the Muggle Poll, by the way. Chapter 3 started off with this long-winded article just recapping everything. It's like, oh my god, why are we still doing this?
For the record, it was multiple articles, but
it just all blended together into one, Matt. I lost track of like what was going on. I was like, is Harry reading something or is he watching TV? I don't even remember what's happening at this point.
That's where it's kind of weird too. It's like this chapter, the beginning part of it, the first half of it is almost not from Harry's perspective either.
Yeah, no.
Because we're floating in, Harry's sleeping by the window. Like, it starts off with Harry snoring very loudly. I'm like, that's odd. Okay.
Sure.
And then we start reading these articles and just kind of like floating around his room, reading these articles. And apparently we don't have any hands that we can't open these papers or move these papers and continue reading the articles. It's like, oh yeah. And the rest of the articles are skewered by the birdcage.
Right.
So we can't read that. Sorry. So we're just like I feel like I'm in a computer game, and I'm just like moving around the room. It's like, oh, there's this page on the table there. It's like, we'll read what's on top, and we can't pick it up. So that's all we get.
Yeah, you basically got like the Twitter versions of news articles.
Yes. Yeah, 140 characters. Here we go.
Yeah. It was weird. It was like, whatever. If this was book 5, this just would have been a dream sequence. Like, I'm so glad, like, Harry sleeping and snoring isn't automatically associated with going into another dream.
Yeah, he's not having those dreams again. Yes.
Nope. I was just like, hey, he's just sleeping. Like, that boy is just sleeping, and we're not going into his dreams or his mindset right now. Cool. I like this, Harry.
So this is where we learned about Scrimgeour. He was the former head of the Auror's office.
Yep.
We learned that the ministry has sent out these like guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that they are put more protection in at Hogwarts, including a few Aurors that are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be interesting.
Please let it be Tonks. Please let it be Tonks.
We get a mention of Side-Along apparition.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Overall, I was just like, it was just so much just coming all at me at once. It was hard to process all of it.
It's almost as bad as like in the movies when we just get those shots of like newspaper headlines and new decrees flying by, and like you never have time to read them all.
Yeah, that's exactly how I pictured it when Val was reading. Was just
it's
like
a written version of that.
Mm-hmm. Which I imagine that those were created because whatever. So whole beginning of the chapter, I'm just like, this is too much already. Like I'm glad to have Harry back, but he's sleeping through all of this, so this is still all just happening. Then we find out about a letter that he got.
Yep,
a letter offering an escort to the Burrows to go spend
the Burrow. Yes,
the Burrow. I'm sorry,
singular.
To go spend the rest of the holiday. Look at that, using British terms. With the Weasleys, his favorite place other than Hogwarts. After, just spending a fortnight with the Dursleys.
Yeah. Everything
is rad about this. It was written very professionally, and I was in my head thinking, Mr. Weasley is an eloquent writer when he really wants to be.
Not so much.
I was like, this is. I'm quite impressed with this Mr. Weasley character right now. He could really put on a show if he needs to. And I was like, man, maybe he's just like, he hates using the phone. He's afraid of Uncle Vernon. Like he just wants to be like the top of his game when he's sending this letter.
Yeah.
Just in case.
He was sending it from work, so
right,
got to be proper about it.
Right, probably had someone proofread it for him just to make sure that it would like
Kingsley
clear Muggle inspection, and I don't know what perspective it was meant for the readers to think it was from.
Yeah,
that I just associated with Mr. Weasley, which led to whole funny things in my head, but. Imagine my surprise when it turns out that it was actually Dumbledore writing to Harry.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
After we went like a whole book of Dumbledore avoiding Harry, why would you think he'd write him a letter?
That's so true. I was like, man, he is quickly trying to make up for an entire year of neglect for this kid. Like, he's like, I'm going to escort you to your favorite place. Like, we're going to hang out. We're going to, like, bro it up. We're going to go on some secret missions. This is going to be so cool. Man, like, I was so happy. So happy for Harry. So happy that, like, Dumbledore is seeing the error of his ways the last several years and how he's treated Harry. Like, he's tried to keep that very strict professional headmaster-student relationship with him. Obviously, Harry means more to him than any other student at Hogwarts ever has. It was just so... I just smiled from ear to ear. I'm like, it's about time, Dumbledore. It's about time you put in a little bit of effort here. He's always making everybody else do his bidding for him when it comes to Harry. He's finally getting his hands dirty. He's going to come. He's going to escort him. This is going to be great. Then my next thought was, oh crap, Dumbledore's coming to the Dursleys' house. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, we haven't seen him there since book 1, so.
Yeah.
And then he didn't even interact with the Dursleys. He just came in the middle of the night and left Harry.
Yeah. So, right away, I'm like, okay, you got me, book 6. It took 2.5 chapters, but here we are. Awesome. Now I feel like we could start the story.
One more reason to give you 3 chapters to read this week.
Oh, man. I would have been grumpy if we just ended on those 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dumbledore is coming to pick up Harry. And I appreciate Harry not even packing. Like, he had all week to prepare for this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know what? It's probably a trick.
Not even sure Dumbledore wrote this letter.
Yeah. I just appreciate that he was like skeptical that this was even going to work out, you know, and he's probably still in mourning, you know, I appreciate that, but he knows at this point, like, he can't be too excited about things, you know. And then Dumbledore shows up. Was it
he does
midnight or 11 o'clock? It was late at night.
I don't know.
I believe it said.
Yeah. It was late, and
because Uncle Vernon was all kinds of upset.
Yeah, he was in his dressing gown already. 11 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think it was quite midnight, but I knew it was later.
Yeah.
Because the street light went out when Dumbledore showed up.
Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm. That's what he does. And he just strolls up there, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to come into your house."
Yeah, I'm sure Harry told you I was coming. Yeah, you shouldn't be so sure about that.
He looks at Harry. He's like, "Yeah, you know, he didn't tell you at all, did he?" And he doesn't care, and Harry doesn't care.
No,
you know, the Dursleys aren't owed that respect to be given a heads up. And then, like, we have yet another interaction between a wizard and Uncle Vernon that I didn't know I wanted to see until it happened.
Yes.
Last book we had, you know, at the end, Mad-Eye Moody.
Former professor.
Well, I still struggle calling him a former professor because he didn't really teach anything.
Okay, sure.
Mad-Eye Moody and Uncle Vernon kind of going toe-to-toe. But Moody matched Vernon's aggression level and confrontation level, you know?
Sure, yeah.
Whereas Dumbledore was able to slide in and be just slick. You know,
yep.
Dumbledore has style, from what I hear.
He's got a lot of style.
And there's no confrontation. There's no, you know, like with Mr. Weasley was like trying to impress him and like trying to like get on his good side. And Dumbledore just doesn't care. He's just like, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. We're going to pretend like you invited me in. We're going to pretend like I'm going to trespass over.
Favorite. It's like, let us just say that you invited me in.
Yeah.
I'm
going to trespass over your alleged hospitality, you know. Mm-hmm. Dumbledore does what Dumbledore wants to do. And he's not going to let Uncle Vernon or anybody else in that house stop him from being Dumbledore.
Yeah.
He's not putting on a show for him. He's not trying to impress him. He's there to talk to Harry. Which is mind-blowing in its own right, because we haven't seen that before. Dumbledore going out of his way to have a conversation with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It always just happens by circumstance, you know? Like, oh, you almost died. Cool, let's chat real quick, you know? Mm-hmm. Dumbledore. It's about time, you know? It really is. We found out that Sirius, about a week before his death, had manufactured a will, which I think is kind of telling of like his mental state at that time. You know, like he felt like things were not good.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just being locked up in that house, like he just didn't have anything else to do. But he left a will, and that will essentially left all of his possessions to Harry Potter, including all of the gold that he had, which, you know, Harry didn't need, but cool, it's in the bank.
For the record, we don't know exactly when he wrote the will.
I thought it was a week.
It says, but first of all, I must tell you that Sirius's will was discovered a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, I had to look into that one a little bit.
You're like, what is this guy talking about?
It's like, wait, he only wrote it a week ago? I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of have the feeling that like once he got out of Azkaban and once he found out, okay, everybody else is dead, but Harry's still here. I like this kid. I'm going to take care of this kid.
Yeah.
We're going to leave everything to him.
Yeah. Well, when did he reclaim possession of his house? Because he was on the run for a while. Or was he hiding out there the whole time?
But no, he was on the run for a while, but I mean, the house was always his.
I guess that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, even while he was in Azkaban, the house was still his, and Creature was still his.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Yeah, so it could have been any time after him and Harry finally got to meet. In my head, that week was, sure, whatever. You're right.
Yep.
So Harry gets the house. Of course, Harry doesn't want the house, because why would he? It's an awful place, and that broke Sirius down. It turned him into a different person, because he was in prison there, essentially, and Harry doesn't need those kind of memories in his life, Yeah. Could he make something of that house? Like, could he make that a home if he really wanted to? Probably, but could he get rid of that awful painting that just screams 24/7? I don't know. And if not, I'm definitely not staying in that house. I don't know about Harry, but like that would just seem obnoxious to try to tiptoe around that thing all the time.
Absolutely. It's bad enough when they were there for a few weeks.
Yeah. So I don't blame Harry for just like not wanting the house. And he's like, cool, you guys can keep it as your HQ. And Dumbledore's like, nah, we really can't because we already vacated. There's this whole thing of like, if Bellatrix gets this, then she can't come knocking on a door when we're having meetings because that would be awkward,
Because that was the big thing is, would the will be enough to hand it down to Harry? Because as we know, this is not a normal house. This is a very magical house. Always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
So they had to confirm whether or not Harry could have it in the first place.
Sure.
And then even after that, like, who knows what kind of charms and curses and enchantments have been put on it.
Because it turns out there aren't many lawyers in the wizarding world. Lawyers seem unnecessary.
I mean, definitely not how we picture them.
Yeah.
Like, we saw Harry on trial. And Dumbledore stepped in as his lawyer.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you're right.
But
I guess I'm just more along
does
the
Dumbledore line. Did Dumbledore get an education as a lawyer?
No.
Does he have the title of a lawyer? No, not at all.
I guess I'm more along the lines of thinking like the amount of paperwork that would normally go into like fulfilling somebody's living will and testament.
Yeah,
that's not existent here.
So I think of this as another magically binding document.
Yeah.
It all has to do with magic, and there's some spell or charm they can put on this paper that says this is my will and these things are going to happen now.
Yep.
Like Dumbledore eventually says once we figure it out that it does belong to Harry. It's like, oh, it looks like Sirius knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
and like it's just a small throwaway line, but I like that. Mm-hmm. It's like it kind of shows us one, Dumbledore didn't necessarily know Sirius that well,
right?
And two, that he kind of accepted him, like, oh yeah, he was a good guy. He knew what he was doing.
Yep. Along with that also comes the beautiful, wonderful, exciting, memorable gift that is Creature the house elf.
Yes.
God, what an awful thing.
Not only have you just won this house, you also get the creature inside.
A disgruntled, disgusting house elf. I let out the biggest sigh when this started to unfold. It was just like, oh god, I don't want to deal with Creature. Dumbledore makes him appear. He's like, hey, Creature, you're Harry's now. And Creature was just throwing just an absolute fit.
Mm-hmm.
Creature won't. Won't. Just a dumb, rotten little house elf. I hate that guy. Harry was unsure about this. He's like, I want nothing to do with him. But Dumbledore, he's like, hey, we could use this to see if all of this is legitimate or not.
Yep.
Why don't you give this stupid little house elf a command and see if he listens? If not, we're going to go back to the drawing board. But if so, ta-da! You got yourself a house and a house elf. So Harry just tells him to shut up.
Yep.
And Creature proceeds to throw a silent temper tantrum. Good stuff. Yeah. What's Hermione going to think of Harry owning a house elf?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Because Harry sends him off with the advice of Dumbledore to go work in the kitchen at Hogwarts. Which
begs the question.
Uh-huh.
Where did Dumbledore recruit all these other house elves from? I never really thought about it too much up until this point. It's like, okay, it's a big school. They need a lot of house elves. Sure, whatever. Mm-hmm. But now we see it like this is Dumbledore's first suggestion to people. Yeah, it's like, oh, why don't you send him to work at Hogwarts?
Yeah.
Like, how many other people has he persuaded? Why don't you just send him to Hogwarts?
Is there a house elf adoption agency?
If there's not, Hermione's going to start one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So it's, okay, cool. Creature's going to Hogwarts. That's frightening. Also, I don't want him anywhere near my Dobby. Nowhere. Like, that is, Dobby's already trying to deal with Winky.
Yep.
Dobby's going to have to deal with Creature. Dobby is going to lose his mind, first of all, when he finds out that Creature is owned by Mr. Harry Potter. Because Dobby absolutely adores Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's going to take too kindly to Creature, this stupid, rotten, disgusting little house elf, actually being owned by Mr. Harry Potter. I don't know how this is going to play out, but I don't like it, Matt. I don't like it one bit.
Sure.
But I'm sure we'll wait a few chapters before we get further back into house elf territory. Buckbeak.
Witherwings.
Yep. Goes back to Hagrid.
Yep.
Perfect. I like it. That's where Buckbeak belongs.
Witherwings.
Huh? Witherwings?
Yeah. They had to change his name.
I totally missed that.
Really?
I don't. Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar at all.
I should have included that in my new characters.
Yeah, no,
apparently.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That blew right past me. I was just thinking about Buckbeak and Hagrid just hanging out and doing buddy cop type kind of things.
Yeah, Hagrid will be delighted, said Dumbledore, smiling. He was thrilled to see Buckbeak again. Incidentally, we have decided in the interest of Buckbeak's safety to rechristen him Witherwings for the time being. Though I doubt the Ministry will ever guess he's the hippogriff they want sentenced to death.
Yeah, I heard the whole sentenced death part. I missed the Witherwings part, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
So, going forward, if you hear the name Witherwings...
I definitely will know what's going on now.
Yes.
Thank you for pointing that out now. It would have got real confusing later on.
Uh-huh.
And then this whole time, Dumbledore has been hitting Uncle Vernon over the head with a glass full of mead. Which Harry tastes it. It's delicious, of course.
Uh-huh.
Dumbledore seemed to enjoy it.
He's never tasted before.
Right. Dursleys don't seem too fond on tasting this stuff. Mainly because the glass is floating in front of their face.
Yeah, they just don't want to take drinks from strangers, I think.
Yeah.
Especially wizards. They don't trust them.
I really hope that this little scene is in the movie because I just want to see Uncle Vernon just with a little glass just tapping against his head. As Val was reading, I desperately wanted to grab my water glass and just start tapping it up against her head as she's reading to see how long she could handle it, But I decided to stay on her good side for the night. But, yeah, just the visuals of this was insanely fun. So, last but not least, we got to Dumbledore talking to the Dursleys and basically laying out the fact that, at the age of 17, wizards become men, and the protection charm that is the household, essentially, will be no more. So they asked if, Harry could come back at the end of the school year one last time, and kind of re-up that protection spell, essentially, before he turns 17. And, he was pretty frank with him. He was like, you guys are horrible. You guys have been awful parents, awful, guardians. Barely are able to say that you gave Harry a home, but you did, reluctantly. But it was pretty horrendous, and, we're all lucky that Harry managed to survive all of this because you guys are really bad. He didn't pull punches on this one.
Yeah.
And they knew it. They couldn't say anything. They couldn't argue. But, Dumbledore's like, hey, one last time, and you will never have to see him again. Because you're never going to. Guarantee Harry's never coming back here. So, that's interesting. And then, with that, he said, come on, Harry. It's off to pursue that flighty, temptress adventure.
You got it.
What are they off to, Matt? They have a stop. Dumbledore promised that they were going to stop and do something on their way to the Burrow. Who knows what that's going to be? With Dumbledore, it could be anything. We also
that's a good question, yeah.
We found out that Dumbledore has an injury that he's nursing a little bit, which Snape alluded to in the second chapter. So that's a little concerning. Why hasn't Madame Pomfrey fixed him up at this point? It's been a while. It's been long enough.
Wait, which Snape alluded to?
Didn't Snape say that Dumbledore was weaker and that battle kind of damaged him?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
I'm not making that up, right?
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
When he was talking to Bellatrix, he was like, yeah, he's not the Dumbledore he used to be. He's getting older and more fragile, and that battle took something off of him, so... And then, Harry noticed his hand being damaged and whatnot, so...
Looked like all the skin had been burned off or something like that.
Yeah, Madame Pomfrey's clearly on vacation, so... yeah. Those are the chapters.
Those were the chapters.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got, Matt.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I think people are going to keep you busy, so...
Cool. Let's do some emails.
Let's do it. Oh. Now, I'm going to put this disclaimer out there now.
Okay.
1, there are a lot of emails.
Okay.
And 2, I was really busy with other non-Harry Potter related things all day today.
How dare you.
And so I have not been able to read through about half of these, actually. Usually I just don't get to the ones that are sent in, in the last hour while we're recording or whatever. But there are a lot more unpreviewed emails this week.
Okay.
So if I'm slow in reading them or if I stumble over stuff, that's why. There you go.
Okay.
In any case, we'll start off with one from Gaz.
Daz?
Gaz. G-A-Z.
Gaz. Hi, Gaz.
Says, hey, Matt and Josh. Gaz from Manchester, England here.
Oh.
Absolutely loving the podcast. I started it about 3 weeks ago. So around a year after you finished your broadcast, and I'm up to episode 28.
Okay.
Middle of Prisoner Azkaban.
Nice.
And each episode just keeps getting better and better. In particular, Josh's wild but eerily accurate theories. I can't wait to catch up where you are, although weekly podcasts will be horrible as I listen to about 5 a day at work. But I do look forward to taking part in Muggle Polls. Thanks for bringing such an entertaining podcast to my life. It gives me something to look forward to while at work.
Awesome.
And he sent in a second email, I think probably just the next day. He says, I'm currently up to episode 32, the final chapter of Prisoner of Azkaban, where Josh mentions Sirius Black's vault number is 711. And he said it must mean something. Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but a quick Google search tells us that 711 happens to be the page number that Sirius died on in Order of the Phoenix.
What?
I don't know if I believe that. I didn't check my actual copy, but like I said, there are so many different versions and different copies and different printings out there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like that could have been in the original version, but I think that would have been hard to plan.
Yeah, that seems like just a spooky coincidence.
Yeah, if it's true.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, let me just Google search that real quick, Matt.
Go for it.
No, I'm not typing anything in. That brings up all kinds of stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, interesting if it's true, but yeah.
Cool.
I wouldn't put too much stock in it.
Yeah.
Next email then comes from Edgar.
Hi, Edgar.
Says, Dear Professor and the Muggle, sorry for not writing last week. I don't like the movies, so I didn't watch them this week, but I heard the podcast. It was very nice listen to Val being around. Haven't gotten to the Muggle theories yet either, but so perhaps some of these questions may be answered there. Does Josh remember Rufus?
No.
Come
on now. You don't even have to ask that question.
What does Josh think of the arrangement between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Magic?
I mean, it seems to work well for both parties involved. I don't think the Prime Minister really has a say-so in the matter, so, he does what he is supposed to do and moves on.
Yeah. I always find it interesting. Like one of the things I like about that chapter is like they always make a point of keeping the Prime Minister informed.
Yeah.
And they show up when they need to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, kind of, well, actually, no, never unannounced. It's always announced by that portrait.
Yep.
But I guess
there's a level of respect that goes into it.
Yeah. And I always like that, well, they obliviate every other Muggle out there when they stumble across the Wizarding World. They let the Prime Ministers keep the memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even after they're out of office, because it's like, yeah, would you tell anyone?
Right. Yeah, good point.
Like, yeah, nope. They're going to think you're crazy. I mean, I suppose you could get together with the other Prime Ministers and discuss every time, the Minister of Magic showed up and see how that goes. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Who else is going to believe you?
Yep.
Number 3. Kingsley defending the Prime Minister. What do you think of that?
Kingsley does what he's, told to do, what he's hired to do. He's a professional through and through. If he's assigned a job, he's going to do it.
Fair enough. What do you think Sissy's request is for Severus, or what is Draco's task? Any Muggle theories?
Not yet.
All right. You can think about that this week. See if it pops up.
I feel like we got time for me to work that out.
Kind of similarly, any theories on the unbreakable vow, or what happens if you break it?
Yeah.
Kind of covered that in the episode. Yeah. It says, I remember in the Spanish version, the word bonder was translated as witness. I find the second one better. I mean, I understand. Yeah, she's there as a witness, but like they needed her wand too.
Right.
Like she was the one with the wand. It wasn't Snape performing the ceremony. Really, it was Bellatrix there with her wand.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like a minister, like performing like a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone has to be there to bond the two.
Yeah. Vows. Yeah, It's all about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
If not, then it's just like a pinky promise, and we all know that those are pretty breakable.
Yeah. And yeah, I love Dumbledore's. Let's assume you invited me to go inside.
Yeah.
He has so much swag.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Next email comes in from Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Says, for the record, I don't know if I've ever clarified this. There are two different Joes that write in.
You know, I've suspected that on occasion. I think one time we actually had both Joes write in on the same week, and that's when I knew.
Yeah, I think we do this week too. So
okay.
So this is Joe spelled J-O, kind of like J-K.
Okay. Which still trips me out when people call her Joe, because I'm like,
I know.
It's J.K., not Joe. Yeah,
I know.
Whatever.
So yes, this is the other Joe.
Okay. Joe. Is this Wrestler Joe or not?
This is not Wrestler Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Wrestler Joe is J-O-E.
Okay.
So. Says, hi, Josh and Matt. Yesterday I was lucky enough to visit the Harry Potter and the History of Magic exhibition at the British Library. It's an amazing collection, mostly bringing out the history geek in me, but also containing some original notes and sketches by J.K. herself and lots of fabulous paintings by Jim Kay. Jim Kay is the one who does the illustrated editions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's anywhere near London should definitely try and catch it. Luckily for you guys, though, the new books are basically just the exhibition in book form, so you can see most of the stuff. Sorry, Muggle, I think there may have been a few spoilers, although nothing major to the plot. I would disagree. We'll see what the professor decides. There you go. I disagree. Yeah, one of the most exciting parts was to see J.K.'s sketch of Hogwarts she did while writing Philosopher's Stone. I'm sending a pic because I think Josh will be pretty happy when he looks at the lake. This is the same picture I showed you last week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That was in the book. The only difference here is she has a picture, I believe, from the actual exhibition.
Cool.
So I think it might actually be like the actual sketch.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But, yeah. We'll probably post that in the show notes anyway.
Sure. Yep.
Some of the other highlights, we're seeing JK's original handwritten passages and seeing her editor commenting, could cut on parts of Order of the Phoenix. Parts that it will not surprise you to hear she left in, explaining the length of the thing. Yeah, that is interesting. So it did go through some editing and just didn't actually get edited.
Okay.
Okay. One thought on these chapters, Josh, do you trust Snape? Or
No.
is it just...
No! I've never trusted Snape. What makes anybody think I'm going to trust him now of all times?
Or is it just that bit of Slytherin mad that makes him such a Snape fan?
It must be.
Hope you're enjoying getting into the new book.
Trying.
Let's see. Got next email from Ovander.
Hi, Ovander.
Says, here for the second time. I wrote to you for the first time a few weeks ago and have been tempted to write it again a few times in between, but I'm still catching up on the podcast. Just reached the end of the third task in the Triwizard Tournament, and the cliffhanger Matt left Josh on with Cedric and Harry grabbing the cup at the same time. Matt, you are an evil man.
Yes, even to this day, that's still pretty awful.
Yeah. Also, I've been wondering this for a while, but is your voice app, are you using push to talk? If not, I don't know how you prevent yourself from reacting to some of Josh's crazy theories and sometimes accurate predictions. For the record, no, I am not. I do have easy access to a mute button, but most of the time I don't even use that. That's usually only when I'm sick and hacking up along. So
I feel like you just lean back or sometimes swivel 180 degrees in your chair to just avoid everything. That's how I picture it going down.
I don't usually go full 180 because my headphones are actually corded.
Okay.
So I don't spin too far. But yes, I do occasionally lean back from the mic and that type of thing. And
just let me talk.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not saying anything for a while. Yeah. It says, looking forward to catching up the podcast. Dumb 15-year-old boy in the Order of Phoenix is quite the story. And it is so far the book I am most looking forward to Josh experiencing.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a lot to look forward to.
So I've heard.
Let's see. I think he wrote in again. Yeah, let's grab this one again. Yeah, Ovander here again. I wrote a few days ago about me catching up. I'm already a third of the way through Order of the Phoenix.
Nice.
Yeah, as I've decided not only to listen during work, but also just whenever I have the time. As nice it is to have new episodes to listen to, I'm eagerly awaiting being caught up and current with the rest of the viewers. As for the title of my email, an interesting revelation. Long ago, before Pottermore caught on, or maybe even before it was invented, I took a very in-depth sorting quiz. It was about 125 questions or so. I don't think I'd have the patience for that quiz. That had me sorted into Hufflepuff. Since then, I've always pegged myself as a Hufflepuff, even tend to self-prescribe those traits to myself more than any other house. I've been to Pottermore only a handful of times, and mostly when it was created, however long ago that was. But listening to the podcast has me diving back into the wizarding world, so of course I had to take the official quiz. I was a bit disappointed at how short the quiz was, and even more so that it didn't have the option to choose my house manually or give input to a preferred house like Harry had in the books. So I got sorted into Gryffindor. This is awkward. I signed off my last email as a Hufflepuff, but now apparently I'm a Gryffindor, and I can't change it on the website. Now, Gryffindor is my second favorite house, and even one that I do believe I share main traits with, but still, I have considered myself Hufflepuff for so many years, both because I feel like it fit better to that description, but also because I based it on the quiz that I thought was much more thorough. I really wish you could manually change the house on the site. Now I'm just confused.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why they don't let you change it manually. I mean,
sure,
people would just choose their thing. Like, that's the whole point of the quiz. But, like, I wouldn't mind, like, seeing a question straight up about it.
Right.
Whether or not it actually, like, if that is in line with the rest of your answers, sure. If you're kind of borderline between two houses and you pick one of them, sure, put you in that one.
Let that be a tiebreaker one.
Yeah, kind of like a tiebreaker. Yes, yes.
But not like a trump card where it's like you pick Hufflepuff, but you answer primarily Gryffindor answers. It's not going to say, you know what, you picked Hufflepuff, so go ahead and be a Hufflepuff.
Yeah. Because like I said, Harry had some influence on it, but the Sorting Hat was still reading. Like, if Harry had said, I want to be a Ravenclaw, it wasn't going to give it to him.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting thought. Yeah. Next email comes in from the other Katie.
Hi, other Katie.
Haven't heard from her in a while.
Yeah. About time, other Katie.
It's usually Katie and the other Katie. But...
Sure.
All right. The other Katie says, Dear Josh and Matt, wow, Dumbledore has style as always. He's one of my favorite characters ever. I know someone said they didn't know who Matt reminds them of, but I think it's Dumbledore for me. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Val is as amazing as always, and we need more of her. Can we possibly hear her voices soon?
We're working on it.
We
definitely have something special, yeah.
We do have some. Yeah, we have something planned.
Yep.
No worries. Next email comes from. Let's see. Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Says, hey, Matt and Josh. I've been waiting for this week for a long time. Half-Blood Prince is my favorite in the series, and I simply cannot wait to hear both your thoughts on this book. This was the first book that I went to the midnight release of when I was 16. The book came out in July, and I was on a mission trip to the Valley of Texas with many of my friends.
Huh.
Didn't even know Texas had valleys.
Sure. There has to be a mountain or two somewhere.
All
you need is a couple mountains and something in between them.
I pictured Texas as flat desert.
95% of that state is flat desert, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So where's the valley? We managed to convince one of the adults that we just had to get the book now and load it up to go to Walmart. I actually did not buy the book because I knew my parents had pre-ordered it for me. But when we got back to the church where we were staying at, we all got in a circle and read the first chapter together. After that, most of us went to sleep, but I stayed up and kept reading out of a friend's book. We had 2 days left on our mission trip, and every spare moment was spent reading. I shared the book with my friends, so we would read together, holding the middle of the book up so we could read at the same time. I hope you read at the same speed, otherwise it gets real annoying. Like my wife and I try that sometimes.
Right.
It's like just reading like a news article or something. She reads so much faster than I do. It's just like, yeah, she'll get bored waiting for me to turn the page.
Sure.
I had the book finished by the time I got home, but I was ready to reread it because it was so good. Josh, I hope you enjoy this one more than the last. As far as these chapters go, I find Chapter 1 being a traditional recap of the whole series, but I love the way J.K. decided to do it. Meeting the Muggle Prime Minister was very intriguing and gives you an idea of how Voldy being back does not just affect the magical world, but the Muggle world as well. Moving to Chapter 2, I think the scene is extremely interesting. We find out more about the Death Eater side of things. We find more about the Death Eater side of things than we ever have before. Snape is super shady here regarding which side he is on in this war. Josh, what side is he truly considering? What side is he truly considering? Both Voldy, because both Voldy and Dumbledore seem to trust him implicitly.
You guys all know that I don't trust him at all. He's not going to side with Dumbledore. Push comes to shove, he's Team Tom.
All right.
Yeah.
I always feel a little sorry for Narcissa in the scene. She's so scared for her son's survival that she's willing to betray Voldy's plans to protect him. Josh, what do you think he has ordered Draco to do?
Don't know yet.
All right. Finally, the unbreakable vow. What happens if Snape breaks it? How does the spell work? I'm so interested in this magic.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
There you go. Finally, we get to see Harry again in Chapter 3. I love the newspaper clippings regarding the past events and safety measures that should be taken. Dumbledore is absolutely amazing in this chapter. His lessons and manners to the Dursleys are hilarious, and I enjoy it on every reread. I feel bad for Harry having to sit in front of the Dursleys to hear about Sirius's will and everything that has been left to him. And then Dumbledore admonishing the Dursleys for the way they have treated Harry is wonderful. It's about time for the Dursleys to be told how horrible they have been to Harry. Josh, where do you think Dumbledore is taking Harry before going to the Burrow?
I don't know, but I can't wait to find out.
She nailed all the questions this week, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be something.
Yeah. Let's finish off with, I'm looking forward to every week of this book.
All right.
Right there with you. It's a good one. Next email comes in from Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
So, dear Matt and Josh, I love the opening of Half-Blood Prince. It's probably my favorite first scene in the series. I like seeing the intersection of the Wizarding world and the mundane Muggle world through the eyes of the Prime Minister. It's sad to hear about the death of Amelia Bowens, who has been so impressed by Harry's corporeal Patronus at his hearing at the Ministry the previous year. The first chapter ends so effectively with the reminder that magic can't solve problems when the other side. In Spinner's End chapter, we get to see Snape's home, where he presumably spends his summers, something Josh has wondered about in the past. Mm-hmm. There you go. It sounds like a depressing place to live, but the many books in his sitting room shows us how well read this clever character is. Backstory is elegantly presented in Snape's exchange with Bellatrix, catching the reader up on what Voldy's been up to. The scene gives us a fascinating glimpse of a double agent. I sometimes wonder if J.K. is using Snape's explanations to Bellatrix to explain those things to readers, to explain those things readers had been writing to her about.
Sure. Oh yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I mean, and even just answering some of the questions that readers had just in general as they're reading through it, like, why didn't Snape ever kill Harry if he was really a bad guy? Oh, because they needed his blood. But why didn't they kill him after that? Oh, because that's a quick one-way ticket to Azkaban. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, I never thought about, all the books in his house having any significance, but I can see that.
Sure.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I always like to note that, it felt or it looked like it wasn't lived in very much, which totally makes sense, because that's when you always asked about, like, what do they do during their summer or whatever, like their summer is so short. They're always at Hogwarts, and for Snape, like, a single guy here, like, does he even really need another house? If I were Snape, I'd try to stay at the castle all summer.
Right.
Like, I don't have a need to get away from it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
The chapter ends with the hook that leaves readers wondering what the deed the Dark Lord has ordered Draco to carry out. Can we expect a Muggle theory about this?
We might possibly. It depends. Depends how quickly that comes back up or how much it's alluded to.
Sure.
I feel...
Depends where your mind goes this week.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll even be this week. Like, I feel like once we go back to Hogwarts and we see Draco, like, I don't think it's going to be blatantly apparent what Draco is up to for a little bit.
Sure.
Like, there'll be some...
They were far too vague with it this week.
Yeah, like, there'll be some, like...
Answer it next week.
Suspicions, and, like, Draco's up to something, but what's he up to? So, let's let it play out just a little bit.
All right.
Because literally it could be anything at this point.
These books become progressively grittier as the stakes are raised, and now we're in the early stages of the wizarding world at war. I appreciate the offsetting humor in the third chapter when Dumbledore interacts with the Dursleys, and I always smile with when those glasses of mead keep nudging their faces. Josh, I hope you enjoyed these 3 chapters as much as I have. Are you eager to learn where Dumbledore will be taking Harry and then and to return to the Burrow?
Yep.
I think that's safest to say yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Time for an email from the daughter, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello, Josh and Matt. I really enjoyed this reading because I felt like action was coming at us from every angle.
Wait, hold on. Stop, Ashley. Is she reading book 6 or is she book 5? Because I'm struggling to understand where the action was. Like, the most action we got was a glass nudging Vernon in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see where this goes.
Says I have a few notes of things I never noticed before and some thought-provoking questions. First note, the picture in chapter 1 and the description of the man in the painting reminded me of Dumbridge. He is described as looking like a frog, and she is always described as toad-like. Mm-hmm. He uses a cough to get the Prime Minister's attention. Could this be a distant relative?
I hope nobody is ever related to Dumbridge.
Second, the word... Yeah, I didn't try. I've never tried pronouncing this word either. Exchequer?
I have no idea.
Yeah. EXCHEQUER.
I think there was a word that Val was struggling with that she ended up just skipping right over because she's like, I don't know.
She says, I had to look it up. It means royal or national treasury. It's mentioned when the Prime Minister is discussing trying to have the painting removed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Thirdly, I love that Kingsley Shacklebolt is in place in the Muggle Ministry. This makes me happy because he is awesome, and the fact that the Muggles don't notice the wizards pulling strings. In Chapter 2, Snape mentions elf-made wine. I'm now intrigued about all the alcoholic beverages that exist in the wizarding world. Yeah. Is Gilly water just an American drink, or does that exist here too?
Is that what's Gilly water?
That's why I paused there.
No,
wasn't
that was
it
right.
Giggle water?
Giggle water, yeah.
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 It could be a typo, or I don't know.
I think they're mixing up Gilly weed, maybe?
Yeah, Gilly weed and Giggle water.
Yeah.
In any case, yeah. Is it just an American drink? I don't know.
It was also like a totally different time period, too, so... Yeah, maybe it's just not a thing anymore. Maybe it's evolved. Who knows?
Here is a Muggle theory question for you, Josh.
Okay.
What's the Dark Lord's plan with Draco?
I don't know.
And the best part of, in my opinion, is Dumbledore's absolute sass with the Dursleys. The picture at the beginning of this chapter always makes me chuckle.
Yep.
Which, yeah. Have you been looking at the pictures yet?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. The picture at the beginning of this chapter is the three of them sitting on the couch with the glasses hitting in the main head.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I'll have Al show me that.
Yeah. Next email. Let's see. I lost my place. Oh, we read that one already. There we go. From our headmistress, Marissa.
Hi, Marissa.
Says, hi, guys. I feel the need to defend myself. While on vacation, I only had access to my iPad. I tried to get the movie on both iTunes and Amazon Prime, but it said I didn't have enough space on my iPad to download it, even after deleting almost all of my apps. And Prime wouldn't let me stream it through the app. So I tried. I really did. It just wasn't in the cards.
If there's anybody else, I'd say that sounds like a lot of excuses. But it's our headmistress, so I'll let it slide.
All right.
Okay.
One word for the Muggle theories. Wow. Josh's notes are not...
Wait, hold on. That's it? That's all I get is a wow?
One word. That's what she said.
I need to hear, like, the voice of which the wow is said. Is that like a disappointing wow? Is that like a shriek of excellence type of wow?
All I can tell you is it's all lowercase with just a simple period.
No punctuation, huh? I mean, no exclamation point, no shouty capitals.
No.
Just a wow. Man, I suck. Okay.
Josh's notes aren't up yet, and a lot of my questions will probably be answered there. I can't even really tell if Josh likes the world-building chapters. Sometimes he likes them, and then other times he finds them boring. I'm interested to hear his thoughts on the chapter with the Muggle Prime Minister. Personally, I love expanding the world to include the government that Muggles see. Shows that even though the Wizarding world is hidden, it can still affect the Muggle world. Did Josh remember that we heard the new Minister of Magic before? No, he did not.
Come on. You guys know that.
What does Josh make of Snape's interaction with Bellatrix and Narcissa? Does he think Snape really is on Death Eater's side, or is it an elaborate ruse? Or is the ruse on Dumbles? I've never heard him called that before.
Dumbles.
But Dumbles.
I like that.
I suppose you shortened it to Voldy, so.
Yeah, I mean, the farther we get into this series, like, the more nicknames that come up. Like, Hermione is now Hermie forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lord Voldemort has been denounced to just Voldemort, to Voldy, and now just to Tom. Like, there's an evolution of nicknames that happens. Dumbles. I'll let me chew on that one for a little bit.
Like, I'm not too fond of the name, but I will admit that I hate having to type out Dumbledore all the time.
Sure.
So I understand.
To be fair, like, I don't know why, but anytime I hear Dumbledore's name, I immediately think of the Madam... Oh, what was her name? The half-giant that Hagrid was smitten with.
The from wow.
Yeah.
From
Beauxbatons.
Yeah.
Madam.
Wow.
Yep.
We had Karkaroff, and people are gonna hate me for this.
Yep. Her. She called Dumbledore Dumbledore.
Yes.
And that's how I always hear his name now is Dumbledore. But I feel like a nickname shouldn't be longer than the actual name of the person.
I would agree 100%.
So I haven't gone that route with it, but that is consistently stuck in my head as Dumbledore.
Okay.
Yep.
I can see that.
Madame Maxime.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wow. Anyway, if there was ever a time to edit an episode, it would be this one right here.
No, people need to know that's not just me all the time, Matt.
Yeah. And what assignment could Draco possibly give that get him killed? We'll find out. This third chapter is one of the most entertaining chapters in the series. Dumbles is such a sassy old man. He knows what he's doing when it comes to the Dursleys. I hope Josh liked the scene where we get more Dumbles than we're used to. It's so good. And the quote at the end, perfection. And now, Harry, let us step out into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I counted 3 uses of Fortnite in this reading.
Yeah, there was a lot of Fortnite.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm glad someone's counting. Leave it to the headmistress doing her job.
Yep. She's back from vacation. She's back on the job.
Yeah. Next email comes in from the other Katie.
Other Katie, what's up?
Says, aloha, Matt and Josh. I have one note about last week's movie episode. I laughed out loud when Josh said that he thinks the numerous Katies are Hufflepuffs because, yes, I am a Hufflepuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Josh had some crazy good and some less good predictions for book 6, but let's see how they turn out.
Cool.
Now on to my favorite book in the series. Chapter 1, The Other Minister. The book opens with the chapter being narrated outside of Harry's point of view. This has only happened twice in the series until this point. The first chapter of Sorcerer's Stone and the first chapter of Goblet of Fire, which we discussed earlier. I don't quite agree with. But I love it when chapters get written outside of Harry's point of view. It only happens a few times to make those chapters and the information in them seem so important. I will agree with that. They're written that way for a reason.
Sure.
Fudge is back and he's fallen from grace. Good. I really like the way, really like this way of reviewing the events in previous books. We get the chance to see major wizarding events from the point of view of a Muggle. I really dislike the way Fudge says, "but blacks by the by." What a terrible thing to say.
Yeah.
The fact that Fudge has allowed Voldemort to run rampant in England is horrifying. I don't blame the other minister for being so angry about it. The good news is that Fudge has been sacked and there's a new minister in town. Any thoughts on Rufus?
I have no thoughts whatsoever about him.
All right.
I mean, he can't be worse than Fudge, so... And it's not Percy. Bonus.
Yeah. That's still a little bit of surprise he didn't make his way up there.
Does Percy still stay loyal to Fudge? Because Fudge is like still there as like an advisor, essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas Percy slide into like helping out Rufus now.
I kind of picture Fudge as like a transition advisor. Like he'll be there for, a month tops.
Sure.
And then he'll be on his way once Rufus feels like he's gotten all he can out of him.
Yeah. But what will Percy do is the question.
That is the question.
Is he loyal to the position or the man?
I've always thought he was loyal to the position.
Oh, me too. But
he was loyal to Fudge because he was working his way up.
Yeah.
And Fudge was the man at the top.
Percy has surprised me before, Matt, so...
I know.
Okay.
We'll find out. Maybe. Chapter 2. We get another chapter from outside Harry's point of view, and this time it's from Narcissa. I've always loved getting to see her. Bellatrix and Snape's big discussion. And we get a bonus Wormtail mention. Bellatrix shows her cruelty so casually when she murders that poor fox. Agreed. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever realized Snape says he took the potions master position on the orders of Voldemort. Also true.
Yeah.
Bellatrix believes she's Voldemort's most favored follower. I feel like this is probably true, but not quite to the extent that she believes. The Dark Lord's word is law is really bone-chilling to hear in Jim Dale's audiobook. He does a great Snape. I'm less fond of his Narcissa and Bellatrix voices. He gives them a French accent, and I find it very distracting.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah.
Especially for Bellatrix. Like the Narcissa, maybe. Because
yes.
She seems a little more prim and proper, and I can see French going
she
that
probably
way.
went to Beaubaton.
Yeah. But...
Beaubaton.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me how you say it, because I never know how to say it.
Okay. I just realized that I was like, am I even saying the right house, the right school? I don't even.
Yeah,
it's just a word that popped in my
head. I'm pretty sure I say it wrong, but it's the way I've always said it in my head.
Sure.
So I kind of stick with it. It's drilled in there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on what Draco was up to this year? What's Voldemort's plan for him? We'll find out. Chapter 3. This chapter title reminds me of Book 1 when Dudley learns the word won't, or shan't if you have the British version. We're back to Harry's point of view, and it's good to be home. I think Josh would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I really enjoyed the newspaper articles we get snippets of. J.K. writes so well in these little articles. Dumbledore versus the Dursleys. I really appreciate how Dumbledore treats this horrible family. But I do want to know what appalling damage has been inflicted on Dudley.
I mean, just raising him to be a spoiled, rotten brat.
Yeah, I that's how I've always understood it.
Yeah.
What he's talking about. It's like they spoiled him rotten, and he's not equipped to live in the world by himself.
Yeah, he's a bully now. He's just, look at his attitude. That's because of how he was raised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Harry has the joy of owning Creature. I wonder how that will play out, especially since Creature will be at Hogwarts this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why does Harry need his invisibility cloak? Where's Dumbledore taking him?
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Mm-hmm. He made him take the like. I found it interesting that like he mentioned that Stillwell at the Dursleys. Like, I know he wanted to like send the rest of his stuff on his way, so he had to tell him to take it out now.
Right.
But like, I think, did he do that in front of the Dursleys yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
pretty much everything was in front of the Dursleys. Yeah. Yep.
Like, I'm sure, like they were still kind of in shock.
And he knows
the whole scene.
He also knows that they will 100% never speak of magic to anyone outside of that house.
Very true.
Yeah. Like, they are the most trustworthy muggles ever because they absolutely refuse to acknowledge the existence of magic.
Yeah. They want to believe it doesn't exist.
Yep. Maybe they'll go into the Ministry of Magic. What are they going to do there? I have no idea. Maybe Dumbledore needs to break in for something. Did he drop something in the battle?
Harry has experience there.
Yeah.
Although you'd think Dumbledore could just walk in himself and get it.
Yeah, I don't know. He probably just has... He doesn't want to have to answer questions and deal with formalities.
Fair enough. Next email comes from Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Dear Matt, Josh. So this will be a long email, and I apologize in advance. But there were way too many cool things that happened in the movie episode not comment. And that's in addition to the best opening to any book in the entire Harry Potter series.
What are you guys talking about? I don't think I've read the same book. Okay, continue.
First, I have to say that Val is awesome. When she's on, she brings so much to the podcast, and I really wish we could hear from her more often. I've come to love this podcast since I started listening in January, other than my Game of Thrones hiatus. And there is almost nothing I would change. But now after the movie episode, I argue that there is one thing you could do to improve it. And that is by adding Val to the show, at least at times. You would make your podcast complete with 3 types of living human beings on Earth. 1, the never read, never watched Harry Potter Josh types. The have read, have watched, and love Harry Potter Matt types. And the have watched the Harry Potter movies but not read the Harry Potter books Val types. In short, Val fills that rather large void of movie-only muggles. She offers a unique perspective, and I think that adds a lot to the analysis. And we get to learn key facts about the reading process and Josh's reactions from her perspective, and not just his. A huge part of the enormous psychological and cultural experiment that is the Tales from Godric's Hollow podcast. Now, I am certainly not a headmaster or a minister of magic for this podcast, only just a humble patron and loyal fan. But this Gryffindor is not afraid to make a suggestion to bring her on more often, at least once a month, perhaps. Or maybe a Voice of Val special Butterbeer banter episode every now and then. Maybe when she feels like joining in or has something particular she wants to say. Or she says she frequently yells at the podcast. Maybe we could do a weekly Vowler, which is Val plus Howler. Maybe not that.
Val reacts.
At the very least, can we please hear the Val voice for Trelawney? Seriously, how have we not heard this yet? Her adoring public is waiting. We'll see what we can do.
Yep.
Second, during the episode, you mentioned breaking the 1 hour podcast rule. Yes, and thank Merlin's beard, you do. The fact that there is some structure around chapters is good, but you guys keep going on and on until topics naturally exhaust themselves, rather than adhering to an artificial time limit. Mm-hmm. It's just exactly why we do it, yes. And you're allowing fans to write in as you do makes this podcast special and very different from many others. It's like getting together with your Harry Potter friends and not leaving until we're all done for the day. There's so many other things I want to say about the last episode, but one last thing for now. I want to raise my tankard of butterbeer to Hannah for what she said about this podcast providing a forum for her contributions, and that she thought she was too late for that, and that the opportunity to be a part of Harry Potter community had passed her by. As someone who was in his early 20s when the series first came out, and thus now 41, I share the exact same view as her, and I'm equally grateful to you guys and Val. Hannah summed up my feelings perfectly. Now on to these awesome chapters. First, I agree, almost, with Brent, that Chapter 1, The Other Minister, is the best opening chapter of any book in the series, and one of the best of the entire series altogether. Think of what Rowling manages to accomplish in this one chapter. She brilliantly provides a lot of exposition and recap in a totally unique and witty way. We learn of how Voldemort's Death Eaters are on the march and terrorizing the Wizarding World, and the Muggle World too. We learn something of how the Ministry of Magic functions, and more specifically, how it liaises with the UK government. Sorry, I see two letters starting with U, and I instantly read US.
Again, we just take ownership of everything.
Yep. Sorry about that. We get a reaction from a Muggle to learning of the Wizarding World and its working ways. Not a family member or a Muggle-born wizard, but someone who is totally removed from the magical community, but who otherwise is intelligent, influential, powerful, and utterly incapable of processing his feelings with anyone. We also learn that Fudge has been sacked, and we get to see Fudge diminished, and I have to admit to having some sympathy for Fudge, thanks to this endearing chapter. Now, before my fellow Potterheads think I'm going to pull a Josh-like inexcusable defensive Rita Skeeter for Fudge, let me explain. Fudge, who was obtuse in the extreme from the end of Goblet of Fire to the end of Order of the Phoenix, is utterly defeated here and deflated. But there is a reflective quality to Fudge that almost manages an acceptance of his responsibility for his awful leadership. We sometimes see this with flawed and failed politicians in America and other democracies, when after leaving office, they talk to an interviewer and admit their failings and mistakes. And when it is introspective and honest and thoughtful, I find it rather admirable and helpful to other leaders and to history. And like so many other so-called secondary characters, introspective Fudge just pops out as even more real than before. And to me, this character development for someone like Fudge is just more testimony to Rowling's genius as a writer. Finally, we get introduced to Rufus, a rather different kind of Minister of Magic, but more on him in future readings. For one chapter, J.K. achieves so much, so deliciously well. I'll be brief about the next two chapters. Chapter 2. The title of the chapter says it all. Spinner's End. What a wicked web we are entering. This sort of play on words, presumably a nod both to an old textile mill spinning device and to the imagery of a spider spinning its web. Makes sense. It makes the series so much fun to read. J.K. brilliantly raises the suspense level by just alluding to schemes and treachery in this chapter. This woman knows how to spin a gripping yarn. Chapter 3. Let me just say that I love the way Dumbledore calls out the Dursleys for their rudeness and unpleasantness, both in that moment and for Harry's 16 years of being alive. But it is in the final line of the chapter that gets me every time. And now, Harry, let us step out into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is my favorite of the series, and I also believe it is the best of the series. J.K. is just at the top of her game in terms of storytelling, character development, and writing quality. These first 3 chapters show it. And it's the writing like the final line of Chapter 3 that keeps bringing me back year after year to her epic.
Well said.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Next email from Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea.
Says, hey guys, just one comment from the movie episode. This is only my second time reading through the series, but I have seen the movies countless times. Josh, I feel that when you start to watch the movies more, not just right after you read the book, the differences won't stand out as much and you will enjoy them more. It can be irritating to think of everything that's been left out, but after being a long-term fan, you learn to love the books and movies in different ways.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yep. I am slacking and haven't read the chapters yet, but I'm very excited for Josh to start this book. So many things to come. Anyways, I wanted to write an email today. Write in about an email I received from Pottermore today. Not sure if you guys will talk about this at the beginning, but just in case you don't, Pottermore is now selling Pottermore art. These pieces are beautiful and magical. Josh, unfortunately, I don't think it's safe for you to just go to the website and view all of these. I think Matt and Val will have to go and pick out certain ones that you can see, but they are awesome. Can't wait to get one for myself, or maybe win one in a giveaway.
Hint.
That's a hint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I have checked these out, and yeah, unfortunately, it's not a good idea for you to go look at them.
Man, I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to do anything on Pottermore still.
Yeah. It's
I took 2 quizzes and that's it.
Very dangerous territory, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But for anyone else that's out there, go to Pottermore. It's on the front page right now. It's hard to miss. They have a link right to their art section. There's, I think, 40 pieces or something like that that they came out with. Many of them are like based around quotes from the book, but the words are like worked into the picture itself.
Oh, cool!
And so it's I like what they've done with them.
Is it all from one artist or
no?
Okay.
It's actually from a variety of artists. Okay. I think they did mention. I didn't look too closely at which ones in particular were made by whom, but I think I did see a mention of Ollie Moss in there again.
I love Ollie Moss's work.
Yeah. So, I mean,
amazing stuff.
That gives you an idea. I'm pretty sure some of his stuff is in there again. But yeah, this is art. I believe it has been available already, but it was only available in the UK, I think, and maybe Europe as well. But they are now through the Pottermore website making it available to the US. Cool. So that's why it's a big deal now. So yeah, I will definitely keep an eye on that and probably end up picking up some. I'm not going to pick up all 40 of them, but as much as I would love to. But
sure,
yeah, that I can easily see there being a giveaway in there somewhere. So
cool.
Next email then comes from Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Says, hi guys, or should I say, happy Halloween. Time zones make it Halloween morning as I'm writing this email to you, and it's not huge here in New Zealand, but it is growing in momentum. You'll have to let me know if it's usual practice to go around greeting people with Happy Halloween. As I type on the radio is an annual debate on whether we should be embracing American commercialism.
Don't embrace anything American right now. Just
yeah. But what makes
football.
me laugh?
Embrace football. The real football.
What makes me laugh is now they are bringing up Harry Potter, and it's being blamed for the increasing numbers of New Zealand kids wanting to dress up and hit the streets. My kids will go to a local community event playing games and eating too much sugar, but there will be some treats for any little Harry Potters that may turn up later. That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never thought about, once again, Halloween being a super American thing, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Greeting people with Happy Halloween, yes. It's not like as prevalent as like a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's up there. Like I would say it's above like Happy St. Patrick's Day or Happy Valentine's Day. But not quite level.
I could agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually I think I could see it more if you're like going to a party or something. Yeah. That's probably how people answer the door or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't walk around town and like change my greeting to Happy Halloween.
No. Like if you're working in an office and you have like a little party at lunch or something like that, like definitely. But yeah.
Anyway, in the last fortnight, we have a new prime minister and new government appointed. It's a big change after 9 years, but last night we had a news item about how spring makes pumpkins expensive to buy and turn into lanterns. It went on to show all the vegetables you could use instead. That's interesting too.
Oh.
So for the record, I believe she's talking real world, not about the book at all.
I was just about to ask you which we're talking about now.
I think it's just because it lines up with the book.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, I've never tried using any other vegetable to make like a jack-o'-lantern.
Well, it's funny you say that because on Facebook earlier today, actually, I saw somebody was saying how they're at college and in their dorm they weren't allowed to have pumpkins in their dorm for whatever reasons. I imagine just because they didn't want them to like rot and stink up the place or whatever.
Sure.
So they made a jack-o'-lantern out of pineapple, which I thought was really cool.
See, that's something that seems like would happen like down south or something. Because like I've always wondered, and I always talk to people. Like this was another topic I talked to Brent about this week in our chat. Because I'm gonna bring up this chat with Brent a lot because we were the only two in our Patreon hangout this month.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else forgot to show up for whatever reason.
Shame on everybody.
So I had it was like 2.5 hour chat with Brent.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we covered a lot of ground. In any case, we were talking about like Christmas in the South and like, do people still, put up lights and stuff? And it's like, yeah, sometimes even they put out fake snow and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird, but sure. But yeah, like I see that, like pineapple being a little more tropical. So instead of a pumpkin, throw out a pineapple with a face. And I can see it.
Also, when you say down south, 100% my mind will never go to Florida as being down south.
It's in the South.
I know. I completely understand. But when you say down south, I think Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia.
That's definitely more direct south. Yeah. And yes, I will consider Georgia more the South than I would Florida.
Right.
But I mean, he lives. I can't help it. He lives in Florida.
Oh, I know. I'm not disputing it.
We did find out he also has lived in Kentucky and South Carolina too. So they're kind of talking about all the regions down there.
I just don't know why my head never goes to Florida when you say the South. Like, and I wouldn't even say Florida is like East Coast. Florida is just Florida, right? There's the entire East Coast, and then Florida, and then the South.
All right.
Florida is just the stopgap between the East Coast and the South.
Florida could just fall off, and you wouldn't even notice.
Well, then it'd be really confusing as to where the South ends and the East Coast starts, but,
All right.
Anyway, back to pumpkins.
Yeah. Let's see. You
forgot we were even doing an email.
Yeah. You could be thinking that was a slow news day in New Zealand, but no, just an average news day. So if our prime minister was faced with a wizard coming out of the fire in the beehive, she would be unfazed. She would probably laugh and think it was some trick of Peter Jackson's and demand to see a real hobbit. After that, she would get him to sit down and help carve out a capsicum.
Okay, sure.
Do you know what a capsicum is?
Nope.
I don't. Which is interesting because at the end of this email, she said there's a PS. I just did a quick reread of the email. I mean, you may not know what the beehive is, but I assume but you may have assumed that it's our government headquarters. It's not actually where the Prime Minister lives. She actually has a White House of sorts, but this is where they meet and do whatever politicians do. It's called the Beehive for obvious reasons once you see the picture, which she included.
Cool.
So she clarified Beehive, but not capsicum.
I saw capsicum, and I got results for like bell peppers. So I don't... I'm even more confused now.
That would make sense, because she was talking about using other vegetables.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, totally.
So apparently, I'm guessing that was one of them that was an example.
Okay, fair. Bell pepper seems small.
Yeah, but it takes a lot less time to carve.
True. Okay.
I will send over a picture of this beehive building that they use. It's definitely an interesting form of architecture. I can't say I've seen anything quite like it, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about the beehive. So,
beehive sounds like it's a nickname for a sports arena for like basketball.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, but yeah, that's the beehive. It's a government building.
Oh yeah, okay, yep.
But
that looks like a place where politicians do what politicians do.
There you go. Spinner's End. Now we'll actually talk about the book. Josh, you've done it again. Not so much a prediction, but thinking out loud, maybe wanting a big Snape development in the story. Here it is.
Yep.
And I think it comes at a good time for readers who have reservations about Snape. Bellatrix asks out loud all the questions we have been asking ourselves. I'm looking forward to your notes later today to see how you feel about his explanations.
They're solid, but I mean, I don't feel like anybody feels better about Snape.
Fair enough. Will or Won't is one of my favorite chapters in the whole series. I love the interaction with Dumbledore and Vernon. The line from Dumbledore, yet sadly accidental rudeness occurs alarmingly often, is so funny and so true. I wish I could say it to people often in my work life. Unfortunately, I'm probably known myself not only for accidental rudeness, but sadly for intentional rudeness, so I have to bite my tongue.
Sure. Because that statement was basically he was saying, I don't mean to be rude, and then there was 100% about to be a but in there, and he was going to say something rude. So I loved it. I really appreciated that line.
Yeah, it was good. Creature's tantrum on the carpet is hilarious, and I laugh out loud every time I read it. This is my favorite book, but it's a lot easier to choose a favorite when you've read them all. Josh, now that the dust has settled on book 5, what is your favorite list ranking now?
Oh, God. 4, I think, is still my favorite book.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is 5 at the bottom of your list, then? Or something beat it out yet?
Man, it was a slog. I'd have to think on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you do that.
It wasn't the worst. It was just so long.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Next email comes in from Katie.
Hi, Katie.
I think we got all the Katies this week.
Good. Whole section of Hufflepuffs.
Says, hey guys, first I'd like to thank Val for the positive energy because I did in fact pass my court reporting test with a 96.8.
Nailed it.
I also had no punctuation errors, which is great because if you have more than 5, you fail the entire test no matter how accurate it was as far as word count.
Dang.
Yeah.
Punctuation matters, folks.
Absolutely. Anyway, enough court reporter gibberish. We get to start a new book. Yay. And we come to the third time a book begins outside of Harry's perspective. Once again, that's debatable. Only this time it's 2 chapters. Man, you have to feel sorry for the prime ministers. Hey, I won the election. Oh crap, the portrait is talking to me. I've gone insane. I also enjoy that J.K. manages to break my heart and make me giggle at the same time because she mentions Sirius, but misspells his name. Did Val mention that to you at all?
She did point that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, she puts serious in quotes because it's just the word serious, not the name.
Something else was misspelled too.
Quidditch.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
She did stop.
KWID. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because I mean, he's going off pure verbal pronunciation that he's heard probably once, maybe twice in his life.
Yeah.
What else can he do? That's how he thinks they're spelled.
Sure.
What on earth is the task that Draco has been set? New Muggle theories, Josh?
To catch all the spiders and banish them to New Zealand and Australia.
He may have been successful. Also, what do we think of Snape's long explanation of exactly why he is evil? Is he really?
Yes.
No, he can't be. Or can he?
Yes. Absolutely he can be. Yeah.
What amuses me is her next line. This email is long, not compared to everybody else's.
Yeah.
But thank you for keeping them short.
You're good, Katie.
So I will just say this last chapter, that scene with the glasses hitting the Dursleys in the head continues to bring me great joy, no matter how many times I read it. Also the part where Vernon is, I don't mean to be rude, and Dumbledore advises him to say nothing at all. That's a good plan if you start your sentence with any number of things, like, I don't mean to be sexist, but
yeah,
you probably best go ahead and stop talking.
I'm not racist, but yeah, just stop.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
We got another email from our headmistress, Marissa.
Marissa is back from vacation, and she means business.
Unfortunately, this one is titled R.I.P. My Wand.
What?
I was at my fitness class tonight, and we were supposed to dress up for Halloween. I still think that's weird for fitness. Like, there you go, Kim. Apparently, in America, we have a problem.
Halloween has officially jumped the shark.
Yes. Anyway, says, I got my Ravenclaw robes on and even took my Luna wand. I went to put the wand... I went to put it in the wand pocket on the inside of the robe, but I missed, and it fell on the floor, and the handle broke off. It worked out, though, because before I couldn't put it behind my ear for safekeeping like Luna did, because the handle made it too heavy. But now I can. Life's funny that way. Like when Ron broke his wand, but then Lockhart tried to use it to remove the boy's memory, and it backfired instead.
Thank goodness it
Very
did.
true. So, there you go. Silver lining. Sounds like Luna.
Sorry, Marissa.
Next email comes from Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
It says, hi, Josh and Matt. I've been caught up in listening along for quite a while now, but I've only written in a few times before. However, these chapters stuck out to me more than I expected, and I decided to share some of my thoughts. The first chapter of this book is one that I really enjoy. I believe it's also the first one we get in the series that is completely separate from Harry's perspective, other than the very beginning of the books. I love hearing what the Muggle Prime Minister is thinking about in all of his past encounters with the magical world since taking office. I also think it's a really clever way to give an update to the reader about what's been happening since the last book ended. We found out what Voldemort and the Death Eaters have been up to and what's being done about it. And of course, we meet the new Minister of Magic. You've probably already been asked, but Josh, I'm curious what Josh thinks of Fudge's replacement.
I don't know.
I've listened to the audiobooks, and when the second chapter started, I realized that I didn't remember at all what was happening in this chapter. I haven't read this book nearly as many times as the others, and it took me a bit to remember what was going on with Bella and Sissy, and the poor fox. This is also the first time I've reread the book since becoming a mother, and it was interesting that I could now empathize with Narcissa's desperation in a way that I definitely hadn't before. It made me think about her as a real person, one who had been raised in an unfortunate family and made bad decisions, but still had a deep love for her child. It's a thought.
Yeah.
There's a lot I could say about Snape here, of course, but I'm sure I don't have anything to say that hasn't already been said and repeated by this point. And then in chapter 3, we reach the scene with Dumbledore and the Dursleys. I had also forgotten how absolutely hilarious this part is. I can vividly imagine the couch knocking them all down in sitting position, and then the glasses of mead instantly tapping them on the heads while they try to pretend the whole thing isn't really happening. Well, I guess that's enough for now. I'd ask for Josh for predictions about what Harry and Dumbledore will be doing on their way to the Burrow, but if he had predictions, he's probably already made them and shared them by now.
Probably going to grab a spot of tea and maybe some crumpets and hang out by the river.
All right.
That sounds like a very British thing to do, so.
Sounds good to me. And now we have a rather early email from Atari Alex.
Atari Alex made it through the baseball game.
Yeah. Dear Josh and Matt, last night I stayed up about 1:45 my time watching the most stressful, chaotic baseball game in the history of mankind.
Right there with you, Alex.
Then, because I was too riled up to sleep, and because I was afraid there wouldn't be enough time for me to read 3 chapters of Half-Blood Prince, watched Thor: The Dark World in anticipation of Thor: Ragnarok, and watched the Astros win their first World Series by winning Game 6, I cracked open my book and started reading. I finally got to bed an hour later and woke up this morning to remember that there's no baseball today. Now, because I'm very tired, I'm writing my email much earlier than usual, potentially giving up my coveted last email spot. As I say, something's got to give.
Speaking of which, hold on.
Yeah.
Alex, if you could help me figure out a way to tell my kids that there's not going to be trick-or-treating this year because I'll be busy watching Game 6 of the World Series, that would be very helpful. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, continue.
So this book. Prior to the beginning of my reread of the series, along with all you fine folks, I considered this to be my least favorite book. Don't get me wrong, I don't dislike it, but as someone else pointed out in an email recently, something's got to be last. Recent events, however, by which I mean Josh's incessant complaining about Book 5, may have rearranged my list. So more than anything, I'm curious to see how my opinion of this book fared after several years of putting it away and the influence of the podcast. It'll be interesting to see. Mm-hmm. So far, I have to say it's going rather well. The beginning chapters of this book, which I typically skip, are probably in contention for the best of the whole series. Josh, I think you're in the minority. The large
100% am. Yeah. If anybody was going to be on my side, it was going to be Alex.
Yeah, not so much. The first chapter, focusing on the Muggle perspective of the negative events surrounding Voldemort's return, is unique and enlightening. We also get introduced to the new Minister of Magic, who has a name that is unnecessarily difficult to pronounce. Thank you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Can't agree more. It was also a nice way to catch the reader up on what has happened in the fortnight since the last book ended. That doesn't feel clunky or forced. The next chapter does much of the same. For the first time, we get to see Snape in his natural habitat, surrounded by other Slytherins, without Dumbledore's watchful eye. So the question is, which side is Snape really playing for? The third chapter, while not as informative, has some pretty fun moments. There are also some questions posed that are left unanswered. What happened to Dumbledore's hand? What task does Dumbledore need Harry's help with? What happens to the magic when Harry turns 17? Actually, that's probably it. The two other oddities I wanted to point out. 2 weeks ago, I pointed out Snape's double exclamations and remarked I couldn't imagine him exclaiming about anything. This week, Snape has double exclamations 3 times. I was pretty shocked when I saw that. Secondly, when Harry's sleeping position against the window is described in my book, the phrase misty fug is used. Is this a typo of fog? Or is this a weird Britishism that I'm not familiar with as an ignorant American?
Weird Britishism, Alex.
We got you covered. Got you covered.
Yep.
That's all I got. This book might not have started off with a bang like the last book, but it's a solid start, and it only gets crazier from there.
Okay.
And Alex is in our camp this time. That's interesting. So
If anyone was going to be on my side, it was going to be Alex.
I know. So I think you're in for a ride. Okay. We'll have to see if we can change it, bring you over.
Okay.
Next email from Rich.
Hi, Rich.
Says, hey, Josh and Matt. I've been a member of the community since very early on, but this is my first time sending an email.
It's about time, Rich.
Yes, Josh, I know it's about time. Wow. And no, I did not send Josh these emails.
Nope.
Apparently, the readers know you well.
Yeah.
Or listeners know you well. Readers. I'm a reader.
Yeah. They're all readers.
I wanted to first thank Val for her contribution to the show last week. Not only does she provide valuable insight and observations, she is also great at picking numbers for the giveaway. Since Josh and Matt won't let you share in the goodies, Val, if by chance I get chosen again, I'll be sure to send it your way. He did win last week's giveaway.
Right, yeah.
So technically, I think that was his first email.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider entering giveaways as emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It was an entry.
Yeah. I mean, it's
so
in the email form, but, you know.
I've never been a big fan of this first chapter. Ooh. He may be on your side.
Yes.
I realize that the Muggle and Wizarding worlds coexist, but listening to the deaths and mishaps in the Muggle world reminds me too much of the 11 o'clock news. Like many, one of the things I like about the series is it allows me to escape. For some reason, when we hear about deaths in the Wizarding world, I feel compassion and sadness. In the Muggle world, it feels more like a bucket of cold water over my head. The good news is that Fudge finally gets sacked, which is long overdue. I think that's kind of the point you were making.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then into the darkness we go. A meeting with Snape, Bellatrix, Narcissa, and Wormtail. Is it just me, or does it seem weird that Bellatrix refers to Narcissa as Sissy? To me, it seems out of character for Bellatrix. Every time I read this part, I find myself rereading to make sure I don't have the sisters mixed up. I don't see Bellatrix saying anything endearing to anyone.
Do we know who the
Honestly,
older sister is?
I don't offhand.
Okay.
What's your inclination, though?
Bellatrix would be the younger sister.
That's what I'm thinking, too.
Yeah. And like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a term of endearment, but it's just like, it's like that one thing that like she's held on to since, from her childhood. That's just like,
yeah.
Her sister's been with her through thick and thin.
It's what she called her growing up, and like she's not thinking anything of it. It's just habit at this point. It was her nickname for her.
Yeah, muscle memory. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it sounds endearing, but it's what she called her before she went completely horrible. I mean, it's hard to believe that Bellatrix was never horrible, but it's hard to believe that Tom Riddle was never horrible either.
Right.
So. And now Voldy has chosen Draco to fulfill his wishes. Josh, what do you suppose he has asked him to do? And then Snape is asked to make the unbreakable vow to complete the deed if Draco fails. And he agrees. Of course he does. So maybe it's too early to say, but do you think Draco is able to complete the deed? Or is Snape going to have to step in for him?
Nope. I don't think he is going to be able to. I can tell you that right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Josh, are you surprised we got real so early in the book? Or are you thinking it's book 6 and that's just the way things are going to be from now on?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's book 6.
Then finally, back to the Dursleys. Really, Harry, you're not packed? Did he really think no one was going to come for him? He did get a letter from Dumbledore, did he not? It caught me off guard to hear that Harry's days at the Dursleys' house are numbered. I'm not sure why that surprises me. This is book 6. Gotta love Dumbledore, though. Shall we assume you invited me into your living room? And then Harry finds out that he has been left number 12 Grimmauld Place with Kreacher. If that's not drawing the short straw. So then he finds a home for Kreacher. But what is he possibly going to do with the Black House? He can't possibly live there, can he?
I mean, he could, but he's not going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is one day of the year that number 12 Grimmauld Place could be fun. Halloween.
Yep.
Can you imagine walking that door and seeing a boggart of your of your worst nightmare flying down the hallway? You scream so loud, you wake up Sirius's mother, who starts screaming back at you, "Mudblood's filth!" Then you start to run. But right into Creature, who is standing there with a basket of dusty candy. Nasty Brat standing there wanting candy from Creature. Mudblood and blood traders, if only Mistress knew. That would be a fun time.
Yeah. That's how I want to spend my Halloween.
So this email has probably been long enough. I'll just leave you with Josh. I love your Muggle theories. You're very good, and this week's episode is no exception. When you're right, you're right. But I have to say, when you're not, I enjoy when you're not just as much. Maybe it won't take me another 70 episodes to email back in. Spoiler, Crookshanks is the Half-Blood Prince.
Dude, my dude, if that, I put Crookshanks on the back burner because I'm sick of getting disappointed by that stupid cat, but there's a really good chance that he's going to pop up and surprise me and possibly be the best Harry Potter experience of my life.
All right.
Not likely, but a man could dream, right, Matt?
Yeah. Next email comes in from Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
It says, "Hi, Josh and Matt. I love these chapters so much. There's so much good information contained in them and so much fascinating development that has happened between the end of Book 5 and the beginning of Book 6. Fudge is gone. That alone is cause for massive celebration. Though I am not necessarily more confident in this Scrivener character, as he has already gotten into an argument with Dumbledore. But hopefully he will be more intelligent than Fudge. It will be hard to be less intelligent, I think."
Yeah, true.
The dynamic between Snape, Bellatrix, and Narcissa is fascinating. In particular, Narcissa in Chapter 2 humanizes the Malfoys in a way they've never been humanized before. She is simply a mother, panicked and worried for her only son, and willing to do anything to ensure his safety. Draco is simply a 16-year-old, overeager to prove himself after his father screws up and goes to jail, without knowing what he is getting into. I felt bad both for Draco and Narcissa in this chapter, in a way that I have never felt sympathy for the Malfoys before. Lucius is still awful, and I'm glad he's not around at the moment. But Narcissa and Draco have sympathy for, as it feels like they were drawn into this whole movement of Voldemort's because of Lucius and not of their own volition.
I don't know about that.
It's a thought.
Yeah. That's a think piece topic.
I guess I've always considered Draco is maybe there on his own, but Narcissa, I mean, how much did she? What was Lucius's status when they got married?
Right.
I guess is a better question.
Yeah. Because she does have a sister who's pretty high up in the food chain as far as Death Eaters are concerned. So.
Also true.
It's not like she's coming from a well-intending family. She's not like a rogue Weasley.
Yeah, did she meet Lucius through Bellatrix?
Yeah.
Or something? Like, they were came to pick him up after the meeting one day, and it's like, hey.
Mm-hmm. The Death Eaters singles night, Goodness.
Which, oddly enough, a lot of them are married, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
gotta make sure they have little Death Eaters in the next generation of Death Eaters.
Mm-hmm. And Snape. What an actor to fool Dumbledore as effectively as he has. He plays his role well, but ultimately, making the unbreakable vow shows where his loyalties lie. I hope Dumbledore figures that out before it's too late, and Snape does any real damage as a double agent.
Triple agent.
Chapter 3 is one of my favorite chapters in the series. It is full of some of the most hilarious scenes and most enjoyable Dumbledore interactions in the series. And he finally tells off the Dursleys for how they treated Harry and gets a little revenge in the form of glasses full of mead beating them around the head. Fantastic. Sirius left everything to Harry. He loved Harry like a son in so many ways. and as much as he also valued Harry as a friend. Dumbledore's cold, silent fury is also amazing. That man has power, and I love it. I only wish he had been active a little bit earlier in Harry's life, making sure that Dursleys treated him well when he was little too, and not just when he was a year away from leaving the house forever. And the chapter ends with one of my favorite Dumbledore lines for its whimsy and excitement. And now, Harry, let us step out into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure. Mm-hmm. Wonder how many times that line has been spoken in this episode. Might not be the last.
Yeah.
So amazing. What a great beginning to the book. Josh, you are in for a treat. Now, where are they going?
Crazy.
Next email from our other headmistress, Mel B.
Hi, Mel B.
Says, hi guys, here we are at the start of another book. Half-Blood Prince, in my opinion, is the most well-written of the Harry Potter series, and my second favorite, because like Prisoner of Azkaban the most. I like Prisoner of Azkaban the most by a very thin margin. The opening chapters, as no doubt every other emailer has told you, are the best. The Other Minister is a great crossover between the Muggle and Wizarding world. It's also a really amusing chapter, which is nice to start the story with. And I love that Kingsley has infiltrated the Prime Minister's office and is beloved by him. Spinner's End is another chapter I really like. Whose Snape is Snape really on? Whose side is Snape really on? I love the characters who are so questionable. You can never really trust him. Snape is on my top 10 characters list because of this. Is he a spy for Dumbledore or a spy for Voldemort? Who's being fooled here? He's so slippery. I'm really glad we finally get to this part where we see how Snape behaves around the other Death Eaters. So far, we've just been told he is spying on Voldemort for Dumbledore. Now we see him with the Death Eaters, where he's said to be spying on Dumbledore. Obviously, Bellatrix doesn't trust his loyalties, but making an unbreakable vow is a big deal. I voted no on the polls because that commitment just won't fly with me. Snape cannot break the vow to help Draco. Snape cannot break the vow to help Draco complete his task. I have this headcanon about how much Peter hates being around Snape. After all, he used to bully Snape well under the protection of the other Marauders. Now he has no one to protect him against Snape. Meanwhile, Snape is thoroughly enjoying himself.
Yeah, Snape's in an interesting position, that's for sure.
It's an interesting start because we don't get to see Harry until Chapter 3. And doesn't Dumbledore have style?
He does.
I love all the things going on during this scene, with him using magic to make chairs move and preparing drinks that harass the Dursleys. And he's dropped some truth bombs on them about their treatment of Harry. After reading Book 5 and Sirius's death, plunging straight into 6 and hearing all about his will and him leaving everything to Harry always makes my chest hurt. But now we're off on an adventure with Dumbledore. Josh, I want you to predict where the adventure will be. Surprise, surprise!
Mel B. I am going back to my Ministry of Magic prediction.
All right.
I feel like there's some unfinished business there somehow. Because we don't really know how that night fully ended, right?
Yeah.
Like, we weren't there as everybody left and, you know.
Yeah, because we followed Harry, right, who got sent back to Dumbledore's office with the portkey.
Right. But where did everybody else go? What else happened there? You know? Mm-hmm. A lot of things took place that night.
Yeah. Finally, I have some quick business as headmistress and would like everyone to be reminded to clearly mark spoilers in their emails. I know we're all going to be getting excited as we plow through books 6 towards 7 and the grand finale. I know we all want to say so much, but we need to protect the integrity of this podcast and preserve Josh's innocence and ignorance, allowing him to fully enjoy what's going on and for us to enjoy his reactions. This includes small things that may not seem like spoilers, but could be laying hints for future events. Everyone should know what events I'm concerned about, and I beg you to please be careful. Matt is very busy, and some of us send our emails in late. It's up to us to censor ourselves appropriately.
Okay.
Thank you, Melby.
Why was that spoken. Needed to be said? I have very shifty eyes right now.
We can all see them.
I blame Alex.
Next email coming in from Brent.
Hi, Brent.
Dear Matt and the Muggle, we are here! Yay! This makes me more excited than Jesse Spano and The Night Before a Big Test. I love this book. Okay.
Stay off the caffeine pills, Brent. They're not good for you.
Yeah.
You're not that excited. You shouldn't be that excited.
That's an odd reference, man.
Man, not for me. That scene is ingrained into my brain.
Oh yeah, I know the scene. That's I understand it.
Sure.
But I don't know if the last time I can ever remember anyone referencing Saved by the Bell.
That's a shame, Matt.
Yeah. Anyway, if you look at all of Harry Potter as a 3-act play, this is the opening of the 3rd act. It's when everything has to start paying off. Questions start getting answered, and maybe some new questions get asked. I wish I could say more, but spoilers are bad here.
Because Mel B just yelled at him for doing it, so he can't say more.
And once again, I read these emails in the order I get them.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I said, I haven't been able to pre-screen these emails, so it is what it is. I said in the Order of the Phoenix movie episode that Chapter 1, The Other Minister, just may be my favorite in the whole series. I can now confirm for you that it is indeed my favorite chapter in the whole series. I'm sure that the Muggle probably hated on this chapter being basically a story so far recap, but come on. It was done in a really unique way, and it gave us a story from another viewpoint, kind of like The Lion King 1.5, The Lion King from Timon and Pumbaa's point of view. Do you see that one?
Oh my god. Why do you guys like such bad movies?
Honestly, I did kind of enjoy that one.
Here's the thing. The funny part about all of that is I completely overlooked the fact that the entire chapter was just a recap chapter because I was so bored with everything else. Like the thing I had the least problem with in that chapter was the fact that it was a recap chapter. Maybe I need to go back and reread that chapter. I feel like I am missing something after this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continue.
Plus, I found it super funny. The idea of a pristine, proper British Prime Minister getting intruded upon by the Minister of Magic, who has almost zero Muggle diplomacy skills, is comedy gold. And I felt that J.K. really delivered on this one. Plus, who doesn't love seeing Fudge finally get his comeuppance? And then you just feel a smidge for the guy. It's just too bad. Okay, confession time. I may or may not have tried to convince Matt to only do the first 2 chapters this week, just because I wanted to see what Josh would do if we started the book and didn't even get to Harry Potter. Speaking of which, Muggle, did you notice that this chapter is the first one in the series that we aren't necessarily seeing from Harry's point of view? I suppose you could argue the opening chapter of Goblet of Fire, but then again, Harry was dreaming it. So you might be able to say the very first chapter of Sorcerer's Stone was also not from Harry's point of view. But come on, Harry was right there. He was being introduced, and he was a baby. Besides, that chapter is more like a prologue than anything.
I mean, I didn't notice it until Matt pointed it out, but I knew something was awful about it.
You felt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a disturbance in the force.
Definitely. It was me snoring.
But alas, as loud as Harry Potter? But alas, Matt did not heed my request, and we did get a Harry Potter chapter. And this time, Dumbledore himself is coming for Harry. This chapter reminds us all of why we love Dumbledore so much. More Dumbledore, please. More Professor Dumbledore. Oh, wait. Did I just give away confirmation to one of your Muggle theories?
What?
You'll have to wait and see.
Tease. Your tease.
For the record, I scored your last Muggle theories. In order to not give away much, I won't reveal exactly how I added, how the points added and subtracted, but suffice it to say that you wound up with a +3 as a score on this Muggle theory. So not bad, Muggle. Not bad. Matt, the scorecard is below if you want to see how I did it, but it's best not to let Josh see it until after the book is done.
+3. Okay. Not bad.
Well, gentlemen, that's going to do it for me this week. Onward, ho. Matt, if you could do ho in your best Hacksaw Jim Duggan voice, it would make my day. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure who that is.
Ho!
So I can't.
I
can't do 80s.
That. He carried around the 2x4.
That would be why.
Waved the American flag.
With a nickname like Hacksaw, I kind of figured that's what we were going for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not watch wrestling in the 80s. I barely got into it in the 90s. It was kind of banned by my parents.
Sure.
But my brother and I managed to watch it anyway.
Right.
But yeah, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I appreciate the reference, regardless.
There you go. Next email comes in from Rihanna.
Hi, Rihanna.
Says, hey guys, well, I guess I goofed. I read Josh's notes and saw that he went all the way to chapter 3. Oops. I only read 2 chapters.
Wait. Okay, yeah, we were supposed to read chapter 3, right?
We were.
Okay.
Everybody else commented on 3 chapters.
That's true. Whew.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she only read 2.
Okay.
So a couple of things I noticed. 1, in the beginning of chapter 1, when describing the portrait on the wall, the Prime Minister described it as frog-like, which gets me wondering if it's a portrait of someone related to Umbridge. It's just the sort of small clue JK would put in there to hint at it. 2, Josh, I'm sure you're going to get this a lot, but we'd like a Muggle theory on what exactly Snape just vowed to help Draco with. 3, do you think they obliviate the Prime Ministers after they fulfilled their term?
No.
I think that was kind of addressed in the book, actually. Yeah. And 4, I didn't read it yet, but I love it when Dumbledore just calls out the Dursleys for how poorly they've treated Harry. But apparently apparently better than they treated Dudley, in Dumbledore's opinion. So great.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Yeah, because Harry turned out to be kind of a decent little dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Had a rough life, but turned out all right.
Right. I mean, Dudley would 100% be a Slytherin. So, I mean, that alone tells you where they're at.
Mm-hmm. All right. Final email comes in from Joe.
Hi, Joe. Joe knows the Jim Duggan reference.
He would.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. I had quite the crazy weekend this weekend, so I was unable to reread these chapters.
Oh, Joe.
Reason being, this was the weekend I performed in the play I've been going to those rehearsals for the past 2 months or so now. The show went great, and I killed my part, in case you were wondering. I actually stole a Jacob Kowalski reaction from Fantastic Beasts and was able to use it in the show. His reaction when he drinks the giggle water. That's the second reference of giggle. I like it. And that's a good reaction, too.
I'm watching Fantastic Beasts tonight after we're done. I can't. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep.
I took that and used it in one of my scenes, which got a pretty good reaction from the crowd.
Nice.
Anyways, to answer Val's question from last week, I would have had trouble seeing Umbridge in another role. Well, thankfully, I haven't noticed her in anything else I've seen yet. But I'd imagine the second I recognized her, I wouldn't like her. I would hate to have to watch her in something else while she's portraying somebody good. Can't imagine I'd be able to believe her. Yeah, that'd be rough now.
Yep.
Now on to what I remember of these chapters. When I first read chapter 1, it took me a bit off guard because I totally took for granted the fact that this was all simultaneously taking place in the real world. And I thought it was really cool to get a little perspective from the real Prime Minister. At the end of the last book, Dumbledore says that he trusts Snape. But at the beginning of this one, he's with Bellatrix and Narcissa making unbreakable vows. Very unsettling to see. We know Snape has been given a job by Dumbledore, but wouldn't this count as going too far? Can we trust Snape?
No.
It was nice to get an early and heavy dose of Dumbledore, whom we barely got last book. Dumbledore interacting with the Dursleys is fun to see. Maybe not as fun as Moody, but fun nonetheless. I hope seeing Dumbledore in this capacity so early means we may be getting a good amount of him in this book, which I'd be all for. Okay, it's getting late, and I'm sure you guys have already started, so I'll spare you the rest and end it here.
Thanks, Joe. And thank you to everybody that wrote in. You were right. We had a lot of emails this week.
We did.
A lot of great emails. Unfortunately, like I said, I feel like I missed something. I'm still racking my head as to how that's so many people's favorite chapter, or one of their favorite chapters.
Yeah, they think it's the greatest opening in all the books, and favorite chapter either 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, right. And you're sitting here, and it's like snooze fest.
Matt, how many chapters are we reading next week?
Next week, we are back to 2 chapters. 2 chapters. Chapter 4 and 5.
We're going to have an odd number of... We're going to end on odd numbers for a while, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, that's going to be annoying. I'll try to survive, Matt. Next week, chapters 4 and 5, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. We promised at the beginning of this episode that we will have another giveaway next week, as always. Matt, what are we giving away next week?
This is going to be a similar yet different prize to what we gave away 2 weeks ago. I finally got it in. I had to order it from the UK because apparently it's not available here in the US. I wasn't expecting this, and I still don't know why it is this way, but we talked about it again in one of the emails, the British Library exhibition on Harry Potter, A History of Magic. 2 weeks ago, we gave away Harry Potter, A Journey Through a History of Magic. It's a book that apparently is supposed to be geared more towards kids. It's a shorter book. It has more of a scrapbook style to it. Whereas the book we're giving away this week is Harry Potter, A History of Magic. It is a hardcover book. It's longer. It has more words. It has smaller print. It still has pictures and all that good stuff.
And it's totally okay for me to read.
No. Dang
it.
If anything, I have a feeling it's worse because it's longer.
It's even more spoilery.
Most likely.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't made it all the way through it yet, but I got this imported from the UK now. Nice hardcover book, so I picked one up for myself because I had to import it. I'm like, we're only doing this once.
Yep.
So I'll get one for me now and one to give away.
Definitely. Cool. So what I want everybody to do is write in an email, talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com, and tell me about your favorite politician.
I really?
No, absolutely not. That is not what I want anybody to do ever.
I didn't think you would ever go that direction, but
because the only real answer is Trebido from Canada. Any other answer is not accepted. So, no, that's not what I want anybody to do. I want people to still write an email, talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com, and let us know if budget wasn't an issue, right? You didn't have to worry about having to actually purchase anything out of pocket, like money wasn't an object.
Okay.
Which character would you want to dress up as for Halloween, and why?
There you go.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Also, bonus points that don't actually get you any bonus points, but would still be fun if you are dressing as something Harry Potter related. This Halloween. By the time you hear this, it will already be done. But let us know if you did and what it was. If you have pictures, include those. That would definitely be fun to go through.
Yeah, we always like pictures.
Yeah, but let's just go complete fantasy. If you could pick any character to dress up as from Harry Potter, why or what would it be and why? Who would it be and why? I should say.
Yes.
Yeah, and if it's spoilery, Matt will.
Censor as needed.
Censor as needed. At this point, I can't imagine there's many characters that would be super spoilery, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, you did include a why, so
that's true.
That could be spoilery.
That's true. I mean, if you said Professor Snape because he's awful, then that's not spoilery. So, just throwing that out there. Yep, next week, chapters 4 and 5, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Let's find out where Harry and Dumbledore are off to, shall we?
We shall.
Maybe. Hopefully. You can find me personally on Twitter at The Noise. That's with a Y. Follow the show on Twitter at Tales from GH. Follow us on Instagram, Tales from Godric's Hollow. You could check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. The website, where you can find the show notes, you can find the store with various different t-shirts and everything else, is over at talesfromgodricshollow.com. And if you'd like to support us, like our two wonderful headmistresses and everybody else out there, you could do so over on Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Matt, where can the people find you at?
You can always find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. Otherwise, for all things email related, giveaways and such, head over to talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
Perfect. Wish everybody a safe and happy Halloween. And until next week, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.